Smokey says, "Get y'all's noses ready. This is gonna be a smelly one." I'll make Smokey mod for this because we don't have any mods on right now.
For your stream?
Yeah, for the stream.
I don't think I have literally like one mod. It's fucking Jaden. Doesn't even do anything.
Now hold on.
Do we want to start by saying our criticisms with The Voice episode 6?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Alright, let's just wait for some people to get up in here.
Yeah. I guess while we wait, after The Boys, we've got some things to say about the Black Panther movies. Yeah, I'm making a video on 1, he's making a video on 2.
Yeah, for everyone here, I'm doing Wakanda Forever, and SK will be doing the first Black Panther movie.
Yeah, I rewatched the first one with Stir, and it's got some problems.
But fucking, yeah, we both think... I don't know how I feel about the first Black Panther movie, to be honest. I haven't rewatched it in a while, but these guys have pointed out some things that I don't necessarily think I can defend. And then for Wakanda Forever, ooh, Jesus.
Ooh, Jesus.
Ooh, Jesus.
It's gonna be an easy one, probably the worst episode of the show. Of the show? It's a little hard for me, because I don't think there's been, like, a bad episode.
I think I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
That's like walking up and saying, what's the worst scene in I don't know, Across the Spider-Verse? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Like,
they're all good.
Shawshank Redemption. It's like, yeah, what's the low point? I don't like what. Like the most I would say, like I don't know which episode of The Boys I even had the most problems with, and even when I do have problems, the character writing usually makes up for it.
Yeah. The only issues I have with episode 6 are some plot-related issues.
Yeah. Episode 6 was crazy. What'd you think about Webweaver? Marvel's Webweaver. They didn't really do much with Webweaver. They made a couple, like, meta jokes with him. I don't know. It would have been cool to see more stuff, I guess. Like, more creative jokes with, or utilizing Webweaver. He was, like, not really a big part of it, though, so I didn't really care much.
I actually suspected at first that maybe just for the funnies, they might have, like, Josh Keaton play him in live action.
The first Black Panther, in my opinion, is better than Wakanda Forever. Yeah. Yeah, it is. But,
yeah,
it's like comparing shit and piss at that point. It's like, I
don't... Someone in chat said, dedicating an entire episode to SA and treating it as if it's funny knocks it down entirely, but I'm waiting for the next episode. So that's not what the episode tells you. In fact, that's actually the catalyst for why Huey's crying at the end.
Sup, CHD. What if Robert Kirkman was the head writer of the Amazing Spider-Man comics? Could probably do some funny things. Thank you for the $5, by the way. Appreciate it a lot. Alright, we have someone in the... If someone wants to debate... Well, do you want to... Before we open up the calls, I think we should go through the article. Because you wanted to do that. Okay, he's not here.
Just checking something. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can go through the article.
I think we should go through the article and then say our problems with episode 6.
Yeah, okay. So second disagreement day where we gotta break down a fucking article. Yeah, I guess I want to start with
I'm not there this time.
let's let's start with Variety. If we head over there,
Yeah, send me the link to it.
it's in like the VC chat.
I don't know if I want to open that on. Oh wait, no, this is a different VC. Never mind. Variety. Okay, we can start with that.
Okay, so
I'll just stream it actually, so we can both just see it at the same time.
yeah, that's probably easier.
All right.
Alrighty.
So what was it? This
Yeah, right
part.
here. So there's been like cropped things going around, and people have been trying to, I guess, imply that what's his name, the creator. I forget the creator's name, Eric something. But people have been like trying to imply that he thinks SA is funny, and they base it off like cropped screenshots. And if you actually read the whole thing, that's not what he thinks at all. And I actually looked into another interview he did, and it kind of just solidifies what I'm saying. But we can look into that later.
Mm-hmm.
But with this first one, people bring up the fact that he says, that's a dark way to look at it, we view it as hilarious. But if you actually read the whole thing and see why he thinks it's hilarious, he doesn't actually mention the essay.
Well, yeah, like you gotta take into account this is a multi-part faceted question. It's not literally only talking about the essay shit. It's also talking about the concept of the situation, the kinkiness stuff that they're it's showing and stuff. Like that's the part they find funny. But like I feel like the most clarifying bit that shows what he means is the part where he talks about where's the Huey thing. Yeah, it's this part. He's like, this story in particular in this episode is kind of denial and compartmentalization a lot of us have when we're dealing with the death of a loved one. And if you look through the episode, he's always just saying, I'm fine, which is what a lot of people do before you finally can sort of open the door to the pain you're feeling. And I think that's part of healing. So I think he's going to go on and really try to absorb and learn what his dad and his mother taught him about forgiveness, and really try to take that into the season. Because he really does have the most mature and human arc out of all the characters this season.
And I do want to add that if we look at the episode itself, the catalyst for why he's even crying to begin with is him mentioning what happened in the dungeon. And that's what gets him to say, I'm not fine.
Well, yeah, like, even if, right, the creator for the show is like, oh yeah, we think the essay is funny, it's like, sure, that's on him. But like, what does the show actually, how does the show actually treat it?
Yeah, the show doesn't say it's funny, they take it very seriously.
Yeah. Like, there's literally a whole scene dedicated to taking it seriously. As soon as Starlight sees that happening, she's like, oh my god, are you okay? Like, they're treating it as a bad thing, that what is happening to Huey.
Exactly. Like, the things they find funny are, like, the meta references to Batman, the safe word being Zendaya and how they build up to that. It's like, haha, funny reference Huey, to the MCU.
Yeah, the fucking shit, like, sitting on a fucking cake, fucking bare-ass naked, like, this shit is crazy. Like, I think a lot of the, like, there's a lot of fucked up things in The Boys that it's just like, holy shit, wow. That it's just like, it's funny because of how crazy it is, but it's like, you can still acknowledge, yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I don't think this is much different from what we've seen beforehand.
Yeah.
And people mention, like, the Starlight and the Deep thing, but you want to know what happens afterwards. The Deep gets made fun of, so they do make jokes about it later.
Well, yeah, the Deep is one of the dumbest characters in the show.
Exactly.
I think people... Well, they were, like, trying to say, oh, when it's sexual assault on men, it's okay, but when it's a woman, it's not. It's like, dude, that's not even what this show is saying at all. Like... I don't
Yeah,
know what
when
it
the
is with
blatantly
people.
evil version of Batman is doing things to a guy, yeah, they're treating that as a good thing, of course.
Well, yeah, it's like the critical drinker video thing where he's like, what's it called? Trying to like pick out parts of an article where the guy's not even being necessarily specific about things and just talking about things he's heard, and he's like, "Oh, you're not actually looking at criticism. You're not trying to improve. You're just blowing it off and saying, no, don't watch the show." It's like, dude, how about you actually like look at
Pay
what he's
attention.
saying? Yeah, and or like actually give good criticism instead of woke, bro.
Exactly. I mean, that's
Um,
how their brains. They're like the hive mind in Spider-Man 2.
yeah.
But if we pull up the Collider article, which I also linked in there, there's something else that's worth bringing up.
Yeah, I'll pull that one up.
There we go.
What part is it?
Keep it scrolling until I say so. All right, right here.
Oh, this one.
So yeah, just read that out, and I think it's just gonna further cement what we're saying.
So, after everything that he went through with his father, what was the thought process that went into making Jack Quaid follow up with that, with dressing up as Web Weaver and having to sit his ass naked on a cake? You say that like it's a bad thing. The emotional arc for Huey in this particular episode is like so many people after the death of a loved one. They tend to compartmentalize and throw themselves into work and say everything's fine, but it's not fine. He needs to give himself time and space, and a lot of people tend to throw themselves a little in over their heads with what work they're not prepared to handle. So there was really there really was talk of emotional underpinning to what he was going through. There was always a story from the comics of Huey going undercover as a superhero to infiltrate, and Jack always asked me to do that story. But you want to be very, very careful of what you ask the writers for. It all just came together. We basically had Wayne Manor. Wayne Manor. We basically had Wayne Manor, and we were able to bring Spider-Man into Batman's mansion and take him down to the Batcave that was really a sex dungeon. I just don't know how you pass that up.
Right.
Yeah.
So that if we go up where he talks about the emotional arc and having to compartmentalize things, right? When he's talking about hiding the pain that he's going through. What pain has he gone through in that episode that he has to keep saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine? What does he finally open up with at the end of the episode? Like, you see how that doesn't really prove the point that he thinks it's funny? So you see how that doesn't work as an argument? Someone says the scene isn't that long and muddies the waters by mentioning his dad and seeing what Cripe said made people skeptical. I think that's why I'm waiting for the next episode to see. Well, the thing is about the scene itself, it's short, but it doesn't need to be longer.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what more do you want from that scene?
Yeah, like, what else would he have to say? And
it tells us everything we need to know in a short time, which is, like, good pacing. If you're just droning it out, then it's just, like, I don't see the issue.
Well, yeah, and furthermore, it's like, it muddies the waters by mentioning his dad. I don't think so. I think the point of mentioning his dad is that if Huey goes through a situation where he's suffering or he's going through pain, he usually had his dad as a safety net to go to. Now this is the first time where he goes through something serious and he can't go to his dad about it. So that's the point of it.
Well, it's also touching off of something that came from season 3. Like, Huey's putting this, like, he's kind of blowing off his dad with a lot of things because he sees him as weak in season 3, and then coming into season 4, his dad just, like, he's going out of nowhere, and he's kind of just holding it in, and, like, that moment just, like, encapsulates everything.
Yeah. We have a couple disagreements on the line.
Do you want to talk? I mean, we can talk about our problems with episode 6 now.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that real quick.
So, my problem comes down to, I think, after Homelander sees that Sage is shot, what's it called? Like, I don't think this is the problem, but I think I'll talk about the problem. This is just a leading thing. After Homelander sees Sage is shot, he could have just surveyed the area and, like, camped outside, used his X-ray vision, his super hearing, and, you know, waited for the boys or whoever was intruding on whatever they were doing and try to find them outside after the whole speech with the thing. My defense for that part of it is simply the things could be happening, like them in the basement torturing Tech Knight. That could be happening at the same time as Homelander is giving his speech, and he's very focused on the speech because it's extremely important to him. And Homelander, it's consistent with his character that the emotional stuff gets to his head a lot, and it affects his performance and decision making. But the problem comes down to the fact that the boys, for some reason, just let Sage walk away after shooting her in the head.
Yeah.
Even if you want to give the like, I thought of a possible defense as like, oh, he thought he killed Sage. Sure, but like, you still want to hide the body, so that someone can't find that. So it just doesn't make sense that they don't do that. I also don't like that as soon as they figure out that Homelander's there, they're still making a lot of noise. Like, it's still understandable why Homelander doesn't hear them. If he's tuning down his senses and he's not using his super hearing in this moment because he doesn't know if anything's going down, then it's fine that he doesn't, he's not using his super hearing. But the boys are just not, they're just being very careless. They're not being like, they're not trying to be extra quiet with things. Like, they're not whispering with stuff when they're outside of in the little barn thing. Kamiko's like knocking over books and stuff. They're being super loud with their steps. It's like, I don't get why they're doing that. Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a great episode.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I don't think is necessarily an issue, but I think is something that misses out on depth. I don't like how the thing with the cancer thing. Me and Liam were talking about it. I don't like how the thing with the cancer stuff, like Sage saying she could have cured cancer, but like they turn it into a racial thing. It's fine. It can still be interesting storytelling. It's not bad or anything. But I think it could have been more nuanced if it was less about race and more about other stuff. Because in the beginning of the show, I really like what they do, where the main reason she even joins Homelander is because she's like, she wants to see her theory and test her theory to see like if humanity will really just destroy itself eventually. And that's like really good. But that's about it for my issues with the 6th episode.
So yeah, we'll be taking in disagreements. There's a certain individual who's been very hyper, very eager to come at our throats. So I'm just looking forward to his return.
The supreme unintelligence.
But yeah, pull someone in. I'm gonna refill my water real quick.
Gotcha. Alright, 1 second. I gotta fix my thing. Loop. Alright. Let's start with the Cornier. Cornier, you here?
Yep.
Alright, what is your disagreement and tell me why?
Alright, so with what's his name? You're under my banner. Other guy, SK.
Yeah.
With what you said about those two scenes being like similar, like the Starlight scene and the Huey scene, I gotta disagree fundamentally how that was handled. And further on, this season has been very lackluster for me.
Okay.
But I can.
Well, what do you mean by like SK's comparison and saying they're the same thing? Because I don't think he said it was the same thing.
Or that they were similar. Like you made a comparison that because
I think the comparison is that they're taking both things seriously.
Well, I mean, my main comparison was that you can find things funny outside of the actual assault, even if there's things connected to it. For example, the Tech Knight Batman parody, like, that's obviously played for laughs. The Deep being an idiot, being a joke of the team, after he just acted like he was so high and tough or whatever. It's like, that's played off as a joke, so it's not really much different from season 1 in that regard.
I would say it's different based on the context of how those jokes were told. The only joke in the actual scene with Starlight was when like she's talking about how she had a crush on the Deep like back in the day, and turns around and hard cuts to the Deep's bare ass while he's smacking it. Like, that's funny,
Mhm.
but the next two minutes of that scene is taken very seriously, and the actual assault is done off camera. While
Okay.
for Huey, it's about 15 minutes of shit just getting worse, and half the time it getting worse is the joke. Like, Ashley steps out and like rapes him on camera, and that's the gag because it's Ashley, and she doesn't know it's Huey there.
Well, I think the big problem with what you're saying is there's two completely different things going on. Like, for the Starlight thing, they would basically just have to show porn at that point. Like, her sucking him off. Whereas the dungeon thing, it's like, yeah, that's made for kinks. It's like BDSM stuff. It's like, they don't even necessarily show any nudity on Huey's part.
Dog, his fucking foot was wet.
Yeah, it's not nudity. Wait, what?
I guess that's not like nudity. I mean, there was his bare ass, but the point being, it's not. It's more the tone. Like, if say Starlight scene was her actually getting assaulted, like, it doesn't have to physically show her, but while it's happening, it's just showing like the Deep's face and him making funny faces, and that's the gag. Or like maybe he's like looking at a picture out of his phone of like an octopus, and that's the gag. It's a scene where there shouldn't be a gag. You know what I mean?
I don't see like what you're saying. Like, I agree they're two different scenarios, but that wasn't I don't even think that was SK's point.
Yeah, I was just saying you can still make jokes about things relating to the situation, but not the actual assault itself. Like, I would need proof that they actually treat Huey's assault as a joke, which I haven't seen.
The fact that most of the visual humor was going on while he was being assaulted.
What's the visual humor?
Was him being assaulted. Him putting his bare ass on a chocolate cake while Batman was choking himself. That's still humor. And him being on the horse and like can't remember.
I don't even.
What
That's
what
is.
That's still humor. Like, it's shock humor, but it's still humor.
Well, I would say it's subjective whether you see it's humorous or not. Because, like, for example, me and SK, we were watching it, and we were just sitting there like, what the fuck? This is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, and and Huey is, like, noticeably uncomfortable in this shit.
And it's also, I want to add, this is funny for Tech Knight and Ashley. It's fun for them, not fun for Huey.
Yeah. Why was Ashley even in that scene though? Like, last season, towards the end, when she like deletes like Maeve's security footage, it seemed like that season she actually had like, not a character arc, but like moments kind of hinting that she can be a human being, and that could be expanded upon later. Like, and then she does this shit.
I don't.
Yeah, but
she really feel like
doesn't she believe it's consensual with Web? Because they think this is Webweaver, right?
I mean, there's a gimp tied to the wall, like, right next to him.
I don't see. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but I don't see how it's. Yeah, well, they still do believe it's consensual. It's also like a big part of Ashley's like character thing, like what they're doing with her character this season, is the fact that like she kind of has an inferiority complex, or like a superiority complex, but under it is an inferiority complex.
Also, like, I feel like she is getting a little more corrupted in this season anyway.
All right. So, would you like to clarify your comparison a little more, because I might have misread what you meant, but it.
Oh well, you mean like with the date?
No, with the two different scenes. Because, like, I get what you're saying, but the problem isn't necessarily that they joke about it. It's that the jokes are during the scene. They're the whole scene, and it lasts 10 times longer.
Yeah, but the references you gave were things that Tech Knight and Ashley would find funny in canon. So yes, it's funny to them. It's not funny for Huey, who is, like, actively suffering. He's screaming the whole time through this thing.
The comedy isn't for the characters. The comedy is for the viewer.
No, that's how the characters are reacting in the scene. It's humor to them.
What they weren't laughing during that.
Well, they were enjoying
not
it.
sure- I'm
I
not
mean,
sure
laughing,
I'm not sure
enjoying,
what
whatever
you're
you want to
talking
call
about.
it.
Well, all right. Well, if you want to be pedantic about the humorous thing, it's not maybe it's not necessarily humor, but it's something that gives them joy. It's something they enjoy doing, and that's the purpose of what they're showing.
I'm saying it's not. I'm not talking about the characters and concept. I'm talking about the fact that the way that they portrayed this towards the audience is meant to be funny.
Yeah, but your references
Which
are the
it
things that
largely
Tech Knight and
largely
Ashley are
is up
doing.
until. Hold on. It largely is until Huey's cover gets blown. And yeah, I'm referencing what Ashley and Tech Knight are doing because that's the joke. Not every joke is something they literally tell you. Sometimes it's what they show them doing.
Well, I think the part of like, are you saying in a meta textual sense? Because I think on like in the actual universe, it's very clearly something that's showing this is something that brings them enjoyment. But on the meta side of things, I think you can show like, wow, this is like some crazy ass shit. You can still be partly humorous with it, the same way they were partly humorous with the Deep. But it's still, they're not saying it's not a fucked up scenario. That's the problem I have with what you're saying.
I mean, that's fair, but my problem still remains that it's very clear the way they chose to portray the two scenes are very different, and it gives off a different message. I don't think they intended it. Like with that interview that you're talking about, from what I remember from it, they were talking about they had to keep it very lighthearted on set, obviously, because of what you're doing. The actors have to physically do that shit, so they have to keep it kind of lighthearted. Like I don't think they intended fully to make it a gag, but or like to make light of the sexual assault, but it still does by the fact that there is so much humor packed into it. Like if the humor came from after the fact of Huey and Starlight just going through all the crazy shit Tech Knight did back in the day, or if Tech Knight survived and it just showed him being a degenerate loser after that, yeah, that's fine. That's a fine joke to make. But when the humor comes from the scene itself, it sends a different message, especially when the scene is that long.
Yeah, but didn't
Well,
you
I
make...
think they're also, hold on.
Yeah, no, go on.
Do you not? But do you not see what they're using it for with Huey's character as well?
That goes into my problem with the main season, so I'm gonna wait to talk about that. Or like with the season as a whole.
I mean, we can talk about it now, because I think, because I was gonna say what they're doing for Huey's character, it still touches upon the fact that he's holding all this stuff in, and he's like, you know, I can do this stuff, and he's still trying to hold in his, you know, emotions in that scene, and you can tell it's like eating away at him, and then after it, he kind of like just fucking breaks down, and even when Starlight comes in the room, he like, you see the cracks starting to come up. So I don't, like, they're still doing interesting things with his character.
I don't see that as a tipping point. I see that as like an entire problem in and of itself. You could cut out like, okay. My main criticism with this show right now as a whole is that every season has been structured around like a core mystery. Like in season 1, it was like it was introducing all the characters, showing how like deep their depravity goes, but the main mystery was what is Compound V, and like pretty much every episode builds on that mystery.
I don't think it's a mystery. We kind of know what it is pretty.
Like as soon as now, but
no, I'm saying like it's pretty much as soon as it's introduced. Like they think it's a steroid, pretty much, right? That strings for like I think 1 episode, and then they figure out it's like the whole season doesn't hinge on Compound V being a mystery. It's more of a plot device.
Okay, look at this. It's the core of the season, Compound V. They look for what it is. I think it's a steroid. They try and figure out what it does. It creates superheroes. They find where it's going. That's the Ezekiel scene. Then they go to the hospital, get the laser baby, and then it gets shipped around the world. Like it's the key to the season. In season 2, it was who is this Stormfront bitch? It's she's introduced, shows she's a meme lord, shows she's actually someone named Liberty, turns out she's actually a Nazi. That's the thorough line for the season that all the characters are kind of involved in some way. In season 3, it's what killed Soldier Boy. And that leads on a whole different trail. It doesn't have, like I said, the first question doesn't have to be a mystery the entire time, but it sets in motion the events that all the characters revolve around. In season 4, the closest thing to that is what's going on with Butcher, and Butcher mostly goes through that alone. Outside of 2 scenes where everyone kind of questions like what's on with him after he kills Ezekiel, and the scene at the barn. That's it. He goes through it alone.
I'm a little lost on what you're saying. Like, what's the issue necessarily? Because that's not the only. Oh, okay.
With that being like the biggest through line for the core cast of what's going on with Butcher. Everyone else has been on side quests the entire season. Huey's been with his dad. Starlight's been, I don't know, mewing in between sessions while messing with Starlighters. Mother's Milk is trying to find that guy Todd and kind of fails. And Frenchie has been fucking you all season and then turns himself in. And Kimiko is just kind of following around like a puppy. None of them have been involved, per se, until like 1 or 2 episodes where everyone has a team meeting, goes and does something. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying the show used to be like a 9, 10 out of 10 for me, and now it's like a 7 because it's having a hard time juggling the characters. On the villain side,
well, you're kind of you kind of drone it a lot. Like, there's pointing out a lot of points. So you said the through line for the season is just like only Butcher.
That's the closest thing to a through line for the main cast is what's going on with Butcher.
That's not the case. The main thing that the main group is trying to do is trying to get Newman out of office, trying to kill Newman, and also the virus shit with the soups. Like, they're trying to figure out how to make that. That's another big part, which is kind of in line with the fucking Compound V stuff. It's a plot device being used to push things forward. You said that the characters are on like side quests or whatever. I don't see the issue. That just feels like very blanketed. Like, it just doesn't say much.
It's not an issue in and of itself. It's the show losing the pacing that it used to have.
But it's not losing any pacing with anything because it's mostly character driven and they're doing interesting things with the characters. I'm like, if you want to point out the problem with what they're doing with the characters, you can do that. But like, I'd like to get more specific with that.
Alrighty. So for Starlight, she's been having her like Spider-Man 2 moments with her powers, and she's been like kind of disavowing her like superhero persona while running the protest group and kind of fighting with a firecracker. Like, it's not uninteresting, it's just too isolated. Because let's say in season 1, she's going through her arc in like learning how shitty it is being in the 7, and that goes through several steps. But at the same time, she met Huey, and is Huey's in for a lot of the stuff, and is close to figuring out, gets closer to figuring out he's kind of a fraud. Like, it's completely isolated. It's still an interesting character to follow, but it interacts with the plot in very important ways. And, sorry?
I just don't see the issue with, like, the isolation bit. I'm just confused on what the problem is. Are you saying she's not involved in the plot at all?
No, I'm saying this isn't this type of story that benefits from isolating his characters for multiple episodes. I don't understand how we're already over halfway through the season and we're just now figuring out what's wrong with Butcher, and like Starlight is just now decided to like stop playing with kitty gloves. Huey is like just now back into the group. There's only 2 episodes left.
Isn't that part of the mystery though with Butcher? whether or not the guy that he's seeing is real or not?
Which part?
Well, I don't see. Well, I kind of. He's talking about Kessler, but you're saying it's like we only have 2 episodes left. The episodes range from like an hour, 30 minutes.
We basically have a whole
sometimes
movie
even
left.
longer. Yeah, like we have basically 2 movies basically left. So I'm like, there's a lot of stuff they can still do, and I feel like the reveal with Butcher, with like the whole the angel and the devil on his shoulder side, is still very much falling in line with his character, like what his character work for the season. And
Oh no,
he's gonna make a decision, and I don't see what's gonna be rushed about it, especially if they take time. Obviously the show's not over, so we'll see how they execute it, but I think they have more than enough time to do what they need to do with it.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's rushed at all. It's just it's the opposite actually. Like I definitely feel like we could have had the same result at episode 4. There should have been a mid-season finale, not a finale, like a 3/4 the way through finale.
Well, I think the struggle is that we don't have the whole story, so once we see the whole story, maybe that'll contextualize why they structured it in this way.
Well, I think it's
maybe,
very
but
much
that's,
the...
hold on.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe, but that is a very, I don't want to say short-sighted, but it'll cause recency bias. Like if you've seen Game of Thrones season 5 and 6,
I haven't seen Game of Thrones, period.
All right, well, I'll describe it for you. The last 2 episodes of both seasons are considered the best in like the series, but both seasons are still considered like lackluster 6 out of 10s. Because the creators had that end goal in mind and kind of just had to put certain characters in limbo, had them go do unnecessary shit, and basically like wait around twiddling their thumbs till the end. Like some characters, and some of them still had very interesting like arcs and interesting character development, all that. And that's fine. The problem was after the end goal was revealed, even though it was excellent, it doesn't retroactively justify all the time spent doing nothing or like doing relatively unimportant things.
Well, I'm just asking, what's the unimportant things? What is the nothing?
In my opinion, Huey and Frenchie.
Okay,
Huey's arc with his dad was unnecessarily long. It shouldn't have been 3 episodes.
Wait, what? What do you mean?
Huey's, his dad having a stroke, getting V, and then going on a little bit of a rampage, and then dying. You could have gotten that over in 1 episode with him just dying. Or Huey.
Wait, why would you want to do that? I'm so like, what? That would take away so much stuff from that. Like, because it's a multifaceted thing. It's like, not only is Huey trying to recontextualize, it's not just with his dad. It's like he's coming to a reconnection.
And his mom.
Hold on. Yeah. He's coming to a reconnection with his mom, which is gonna take time in it of itself. So if they don't take time with that, then it's just gonna feel unnatural and rushed. So they do need to take time with that. And there's
she can be in the season still. She can be in the season still and still go through all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But because you were saying it's like taking too long or whatever, they're doing unnecessary stuff. The stuff with his mom, all that stuff is necessary. The stuff with him questioning the V stuff, like on his last legs, trying to, will he compromise possibly his dad's safety just to keep him alive? Will he compromise his own morals to keep his dad alive? Is he going to face his past trauma with his mom and get the answer that he wants from her, or that he doesn't know if he wants from her? Like, I think a lot of that stuff does need time, and it's not like all 3 episodes are completely focused on him. It's like they're doing multiple other things. So if you need multiple episodes to, string this arc along, I just don't see the issue. There's no scenes.
Okay, what did the last episode of that achieve when Huey decided not to give him the V, and then his mom gave it to him anyway, and then goes on a rampage and kills like 15 people?
What do you mean?
What did that achieve for the characters? Other than making the relationship with his mom more complicated when it was already complicated enough.
It's showing exactly what his father was afraid of, right? He doesn't want to turn out like their pet animal did.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Yeah, I was.
Like I said, this one's hard to do. It's not plainly obvious without the last 2 episodes. It could be totally worth it. I just don't know. But the way I see it now, Huey has been left in the air for a little too long, and then now we only have 2 episodes worth of development left. Like his mom still knows nothing about what he does for a living, and like that could have
Don't they
replaced
talk
that
about it
arc
a little
entirely.
bit
They talk about it like a little bit. He hints at it, but he doesn't like.
though? Well, yeah, but I
Like,
think they're
he
going to
says he has a
expand
friend
upon
who's
that
a-
later.
he has a friend
And
who's into
and to
drugs,
be
but-
fair, that is a lot of stuff to break down. It's a lot of
Like,
history.
he didn't even really tell his dad much about that.
No, he didn't. Well, what I'm saying is, I would have preferred an arc where Campbell Sr. died by episode 2, and Huey spent the rest of the last 4 episodes trying to decide whether to hide what he does from his mom while still having a relationship with her, or show her and how she reacts to that.
Well, I
Because
think
that could be the season-long arc, but
I mean they could
it would have done well in 4 episodes.
Well, I mean, maybe
Alright.
they could do it next season, but for this season, with the whole facing his trauma, his past trauma stuff, and even coming to terms with the new trauma that he just got, like, I don't see how you're gonna fit in, plus all the other characters, I just don't see why they even need to fit in what you're saying. Like, it just feels unnecessary for the arc of this season. That feels like it can be something done next season. I don't think this season needs to do that. I'm just
Well, next season
confused.
is the last season, and it's probably going to be the most action-heavy, just by nature of it being like crescendo, or being the last season.
I mean, we don't
And
know.
I think they have one more season of Gen V before then, but don't get me wrong. I think the arc is good. It's just too isolated for this kind of show. Like,
all right.
and
I think we're kind of going in circles, to be honest.
all right, how about Frenchie's time this season?
Right.
All right.
So what's the problem?
After the last few seasons, him building up his rapport with Kimiko and like seeing like it might go somewhere, it might not. This season, I feel like there was a time skip that we kind of didn't address. He's with this guy Colin now, who apparently he killed his entire family back in the day. My condolences. And
Well, no, they did
it's
address.
going through like
They
it's
did
going
address
through like
how
a
they got to that
relapse.
point.
I'm sorry?
They did address how they got to that point. That's how they met. Was Huey was in drug rehab, trying to stop doing drugs.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how he met Colin.
Yeah. How big's his dick?
Pause.
Nah. But basically, I think this is the worst offender for the for the wasting time thing, because that arc kept Frenchie out of the group for pretty much the entire season. Like, I think I can't remember. Did he help with? Did he help with episode 2?
With what?
No, he went Frenchie's whole arc of relapsing and dealing with his guilt with Colin.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up space that could be used better on this kind of show.
I'm just like so lost on this kind of show. The isolation's not as interesting. I'm just like, why? Because it's just going back to the original thing. I just don't understand the problem.
All right,
it's very much character driven compared to other seasons. Like, there's a lot more character work being done as opposed to plot. So I don't see the issue with they're taking isolated time with other characters. You're saying it doesn't add anything, but it does add stuff for these characters. So I'm just like lost.
It adds stuff for the characters, but it keeps the plot still.
What's the problem with that?
The problem is that this has been a very, I want to say, plot-driven show, but it's not
Like,
fully, but
yeah.
basically it's keeping all the pieces on the board still, when part of the excitement was how they changed in previous seasons.
Wait, what?
How Starlight, the Deep, A-Train, Stormfront, like half of the members of the Seven, their position was threatened constantly. Like back in season 2 and 3, for that matter.
Yeah.
While in this season, it's really only A-Train.
Okay.
And I'm on that point. I love A-Train's arc and I love Homelander's arc right now, but it's leaving Vought in kind of just in limbo. The plot is basically like wringing its hands, like just shoving as many like political metaphors for the past 4 years in as it possibly can fit, until the final episode when either Newman or Homelander pick up the phone and say, "Execute order January 6th," and then I'll be over. Like, it's very clear that's what it's building towards. Like, that's what this last episode was about, them gathering support for it. But
I'm just like, I'm still...
By making that the focus, it's causes the plot to just wait for that, like, that to pop off. Like, what's the boys' plan right now?
For what?
Other than just reeling from all the shit they've gone through.
What do you mean, what's their plan? They're trying to get the virus in order. They're trying to get Newman out of office.
Is gone. It is a dud.
No, it's not.
Yeah. They're out of it. The guy
they're doing it.
They're
doing it. Yeah, they're doing it right now. The show's not over, obviously. They're still doing that, but like that's probably what it's leading to.
Yeah, but that's got to be picked up in the last episode or next season.
I don't know necessarily. It just seems like you're just saying it's like do you like Across the Spider-Verse, for example?
I like it, don't love it.
Okay, that's a very character-driven movie, for example. There's not a lot of stuff that happens in the plot.
I mean, the universe was kind of falling apart constantly.
Okay, do you like The Last of Us?
The game or the show?
But either, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you agree that's mostly a character-driven story? The plot is, okay, we need to bring this girl to place. It's mostly about the journey that they go on, right?
Right.
So it's mostly a character-driven story. I don't see the issue in The Boys Season 4 being more character-driven than it is plot-driven. Like, you're saying the other seasons are like, you know, there's a big emphasis on plot or like some throw line or some mystery. It's like, sure, there's debatable elements within that, but I still don't see the issue with Season 4 taking a step away from more plot-focused stuff and touching on the characters more.
The issue is that what they've been building towards with the villains is very bombastic and like drastic, and knowing that next season is the last season, we kind of have to hope that the last 3 seasons and the Gen V show like set up everything well enough for there to be the season finale in the next season to just cover all the plot that's going to happen. Because like,
well, we don't know.
Superhero takeover America. That's
what does that have to do with
heavy kind of thing.
What do you mean? That's
what
more
do I mean?
The superheroes taking over America thing. Yeah, what do you mean?
I mean, I'm based on the arc in the comics, which they've like.
Well, I don't know shit about the comics. I don't know what they're doing about the comics. So if that's what you've been referencing this whole time, no, I'm lost on that.
No, like I say, I'm not saying the show is bad. I'm I'm criticizing it, comparing it to previous seasons and how this one is handling its plot, because I do not like how it handles its plot. Because it's been very minimal, and the only interest I can find in the show is the characters, and the side characters. I feel like it's gonna be either inconsequential or like temporary for this season. This season, I'm predicting is gonna be considered the weakest of the 5, based on this problem, which in a vacuum isn't a problem, but it betrays how the pacing has been for the last 3 seasons, and
there's a difference between
changes what it's doing next season.
It's not doing anything wrong with the pacing though, because it's dependent on what they're focusing on. If it's character driven, you want to talk about the character moments that mess with the pacing of the character driven story. If it's more plot driven, then you want to talk about the things that are slowing down the pacing of the plot. But this is very much focusing much more on characters than it is the world and the overarching plot of the story. I don't see what the issue with this is. We've kind of been going in circles with it, so I think we can come to an agree to disagree on that.
I guess so.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Oh.
Straight up cut him off right there.
I don't know who was here. I think John was here first.
Yeah. Jonathan Sampson.
Oh, hey.
Hello. What is the
going on?
disagreement to tell us why?
All right. So I think Kai from Kung Fu Panda 3 is a good villain.
Okay, I don't care about Kung Fu Panda 3 right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
I haven't watched it, so I don't know.
So I guess this is goodbye.
All right, bye.
Goodbye.
Who was? I think it was Manic Artist. He was here.
Oh.
Hello, Manic Artist. What is the
Hello,
disagreement?
what is the
Tell us why.
disagreement? Tell me why.
It's not really a disagreement. Like, I know I keep coming in here and I don't even have any disagreements, but like, I just wanted to ask you both a question.
Okay.
Is SK getting angry? Sorry.
We're trying to be quick. We're just trying to be quick with this because there's a lot of people waiting. So
I can
that's fine.
tell, don't worry. I just want to ask a quick question. When it comes
Alright.
to level design in video games, what to you is the most important? Like, what is the most important when it comes to making
I
a
think
level? 'Cause I've heard
Innovation.
I think what's most important to me is there's multiple things through the course of the game, because I don't want to dictate it to like one single level within a game, because that's a different thing. But the most important thing to me is if you're constantly introducing like new things. Like it feels like I'm getting a new experience every level, whether it's through enemy type, whether it's through enemy types you experience, environments that you're fighting in, maybe some new skills, abilities, however you implement the level design with the skill progression or, variety progression. I think that's the most important thing to me. But within the levels themselves, I just think it needs to be nice, fair, and balanced, and a good mix of challenging.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then, this would also kind of stem into... I guess that's more part of combat, though. I think you need I think the best kind of level design is the mix of multiple different gameplay elements. So, like, for example, a problem I have with the DMC games is it just kind of feels like you're walking through hallways just to get to the next combat encounter.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's just combat, where there's not really like any puzzles that break stuff up. There's not much platforming that breaks stuff up. There's not much exploration that breaks stuff up.
In all fairness, though, with like Devil May Cry platforming, shit's kind of slow anyway. Like the only To be fair, though, that is just an issue that they should definitely just make better, though, in fairness.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've only played DMC 5. I'm just more talking generally, not... I was just using DMC for more of a concept.
If you think, oh god, you shouldn't play any of the other DMC games if like, that's what is your issue. Actually, no. Well, I would play DMC 3, because that has pretty much everything you're asking for. It's just the fact that, like, Devil May Cry 5, I think they just put more focus on combat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, just real quick before I go, my personal preference for it is when a level makes you look for stuff. You know what I mean? Like secrets. It's like, oh, what could be there? What could be there? You know what I mean? Like it's making you look and trying to earn the secrets.
Well, that's the thing that I like about Jedi Survivor, for example. If you've played it,
yeah,
I think there's
I've not
good.
Played it, but I played it the first game, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah, Fallen Order has similar level design. I like how they'll implement the other gameplay elements for secret stuff or cosmetics, like, you know, exploration, platforming, and puzzles. Like, that's just, like, fantastic level design for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, anyways, thanks for entertaining my question, and how on earth do I leave? I'm on PC.
I gotcha. Alright,
just before I leave, just want to say, both of you keep making great content.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Goodbye. Alright.
I think
we had, like...
Cracky.
Yeah.
I think we have a Spider-Man 2 disagreement, so...
Oh.
Hello?
Hello?
Cracky, what is a disagreement, and tell me why?
Very, like, small nitpick about Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Like, you know, when it comes to, like, evading and blocking and punching and combat like that?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the prompt, the color prompt, when it tells you to dodge and whatnot, it's like kind of like, for me it wasn't a problem, but like the color coding that they put can be a little like overwhelming sometimes. Like, for example, like when like a gunman is shooting at you and like it's white at first and it turns to red, that one is good, like that one is easy to know. But when it starts getting to the enemies where you have to either decide to jump over it or simply roll out of the way, I mean, sometimes it goes from yellow to red, and then like...
Well, the point with the... Well, you know how you just said with the gun thing, it turns from white to red?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the parries. It goes from yellow to get ready for it, and then red is when you get the perfect... It's how you get the perfect thing. It's the same thing with dodging. When it turns red, if you press circle, as soon as it turns red, that's a perfect dodge.
Oh, wow. But I was just thinking
You can also...
like,
Well, you can also change the colors of the stuff, of like the icons, or turn some of the stuff off if you want.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh. I was just like thinking like in God of War Ragnarok, it's usually a lot more individual. It's easy to like know.
Yeah, I think they... I think I like Spider-Man's icons more, because I think a partial issue with God of War's combat system can be the camera at points.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big issue with that game, like some others will try to guess up, but I do think sometimes the camera and the icons can be a little be like, oh, I just got hit for something out of my control.
Okay. I have like one more like question, kind of.
Okay.
How long like do you think the Elden Ring experience is? Is it plentiful? Is it a lot of content?
Let's just say, depending on how good you are, how much you explore, how much or how quickly you it's gonna vary for everyone, but most people tend to finish the main game around most of the content in the main game around the 100+ hour mark, and then you throw in the DLC and it goes to like upwards of 130 to 140 hours. So but it will vary for multiple people. But if you're asking if it's like content packed, yes, it's the biggest game I've probably ever played.
Okay, that's good to know. I want to buy it, but no, yeah.
It's $60 and it's worth more, to be honest. It's got a lot more content than the majority of games.
Is it DLC like similar in content pack or?
Yeah, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, that's what I have to say. So, thanks.
Thank you for coming on. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah.
See you later.
Reaper, I think, was here.
Yeah.
What?
All right.
Hello.
Diet Smokey, what is your disagreement? Tell me why.
Hey, did you say Diet Smoke?
Diet Smokey, bro.
Diet Smoke is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. No, because like that. Well, side note, that other guy. Who was that guy we're talking about? The boys. Who was that?
I think it was Cornier.
Okay, he needs to go. He needs to go watch the TV shows because his questions were just double swords. Honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know. It's
if you
kind of
don't-
drawn, and I.
His
Well, would
question, his
you-
questions, his questions getting answered by the TV shows that he ever watching. That's the problem. No one watches the other TV shows, so they have questions for questions they already got answered. I hate that shit. Oh, my disagreement is, and it's a hot topic. I believe PlayStation being exclusively is what was ruined gaming for the last 15 years, when they had exclusivity going on for a while.
Okay.
There's a reason why
Well,
every other game's exclusivity is all around, and why they kind of stopped doing it now. Then, but PlayStation was the one that kind of ruined it for everyone to begin with.
what do you what do you mean by the like exclusivity
So-
part?
So for in the early 2005, I want to say it's a kind of benchmark, and between 2015, Sony would throw out a couple of dollar bills to certain corporations, Square Enix, Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, a couple of small guys right there, right? Activision and so forth. And what they would do is like, hey, if you either give us this game for us to play for an entire year, you can then later put onto other platforms.
Yeah,
or
I know.
B,
I know. Well,
we-
I'm asking like I know what you're getting at right now. I'm asking like
So
kind of
because-
what the problem is. Yeah.
Well, the problem is that because of that entire longevity of corner market, because we now have this long battle between both Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, all the exclusivities, instead of being well-rounded gaming, it's literally just in itself folding gaming as itself in half, but at the same time, it's also ruining the quality of the games themselves. Like, what's
I
a
disagree.
good game?
Well, I disagree with the quality. It's ruining quality of the games for the most part, because there are like Spider-Man 2, for example. That game was rushed, probably because they wanted to hit more sales and get more console sales.
But they
Before
could have made more
last
sales putting
year.
that on Xbox as well or PC.
No, yeah,
because
no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree they would get more game sales, but the reason they do it is so that they get more console sales. Because in the long run, their console sales are what's going to make them more money than if they just sell one game. Because they do sell consoles at a loss, but when you own their console, they get a cut out of every game you buy on that console. So let's say you buy a PS5 for Spider-Man, and then that's your gaming console now. You want to buy 10 other games that are $70. What's 30% of 70? What's 30% of $70?
I do long division. I can't do my head.
$21. So 21 times 10, that's $210 they just made off that console sale.
Hey, I just think it's a scumming practice. I mean, Xbox is no better. They only did that to kind of stop it.
I
But
can
see,
agree
I
with
see what
you.
they were doing.
I can agree with you to an extent. I think it is kind of anti-consumer, but I don't think it's pro-consumer, because when you have the exclusivity stuff, it creates competition, and competition creates better games overall.
But see, that's
Like-
the thing though. Because of that competition though, Xbox, like as a whole, like Microsoft, is a billion-dollar large company, and
Yeah.
that's point been proven. They bought out three companies: Activision, Blizzard, who's the other two? Bethesda, and so forth. Right? They have the money to kind of back that up, but Sony does not have that much money to back up. Like that's why they bought Bungie and got nothing for it. It's like fucking Destiny 2.
I mean,
And
they
that's
got
like-
something for it, because Destiny 2 still makes a lot of money, even if it's a shit game.
Yeah.
Um,
It still makes a lot of money, but like because of that, Xbox is willing to keep buying out corporations to get them to stop doing it, because they're still doing it. Like KOTOR, the new remake that's coming out, is going to be
That's
exclusive
back-
for a
that was
year.
canceled.
Oh, it got
It's
canceled
like-
now. All right,
it's basically
got-
canceled, yeah.
If it's still in developer hell, it's still in developer hell. I'm not ready to close on the chapter yet. I have high hopes, or I have medium hopes, to be honestly. But games like
Yeah.
that, or when Hogwarts Legacy came out, they had exclusive missions and stuff like that. Or Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty gets free open access when new ones come out, or they get exclusive maps or missions or whatever. It's like that little small marketing. Yes, it is a marketing strat to like corner and upcharge, not upcharge, but gain more revenue for the consoles, or get people like, hey, we got this game. I want to get a PlayStation because I want to play that game because it's going to PlayStation immediately.
Mhm.
But when Xbox did it for Starfield, before we found out it was going to be a piece of shit game, though, Xbox consoles grew a lot larger than that couple months because they were exclusive to Xbox. But I'm now noticing that
that's,
if the trend keeps happening, they're going to kind of end up buying most of the companies out.
Well, they're not going to be allowed to, because it's just a monopoly at that point. That was the big whoop with the Activision deal, was the monopoly debate. So I don't think that's going to happen. But what I will say is, like, you look at the new Xbox showcase that just came out. I think that sends a message to Sony, and now Sony is going to be like, all right, we got to stop fucking around. I mean, they're not really fucking around at this point, because they've been dropping up a shit ton of great games this year. But like, I feel like Sony or any reasonable business person would look at that and be like, okay, yeah, we gotta step our shit up. You look at the DCEU, for example, that shit's garbage, but in concept, they did it to compete with Marvel. We got that universe because they wanted to compete with Marvel. In concept, it wasn't a bad idea. In execution, however, that's a different story.
Oh Jesus!
So I think
it's fucking Madam Web. They don't know shit.
I think it's both pro-consumer competition. This competition existing is both pro-consumer and anti-consumer. So I don't think it's necessarily ruining it. I think the biggest thing that's ruining it is crunching game developers. The process. I think Actman just made a great video about the state of modern games. Like, you look at like an indie developer, for example, they're allowed much more creativity with their work. They don't have to pass all their
crunch hours.
They don't have to pass all that stuff up to. Yeah, they don't have to pass a bunch of stuff up to like the higher ups. Like, can we put this in the game? Can we not put this in the game? Like, that's a big problem with the AAA space at this point. So yeah, that's all I gotta say with that.
Also, second thing, what was your gripe with Elden Ring? I saw a video, but I didn't watch it.
Watch the video. Yes.
I'm saying, the reason I didn't watch it because I have not watched it yet. I saw you. It seemed like you changed your mind. Like, what was your original thought about it originally?
Oh, I didn't much like the combat originally, and I didn't like the whole figure everything out game design at first.
Is that like when you mean figure out, like when games don't actually hold your hand and like they tell you like figure
not
out?
Not necessarily hold your hand, but my problem with Elden Ring was I felt like they weren't telling me a damn thing. Like, I was just lost.
You know what those are though, and I think it's not really a fault. I think like those type of tailored games that's like for veteran players, which I have no problem with them doing. Because there'll be a game, it's like, I don't know how to play this because there's no instruction. It's like, well, it was made for people who've been playing that game for like 10 fucking years or some shit like that. Like,
I agree. Well, I mean, once I
yeah.
played more games similar to it, with not just level design, but also combat, boss design, I think the more I played games similar to it, like Sekiro was pretty much my stepping in point. That's where I was like, okay, yeah, I see the appeal.
No, yeah, because that game's a lot more easier, but it's also difficult as shit because everybody's cracked.
Yeah.
To me, you gotta beat that shit. Oof.
All right, is that everything?
Off the top of my head, yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait, I thought one more thing.
Okay.
One quick thing. What's the most popular game that you dislike? Like a very popular game that you dislike to the community. Yep, someone asked me that. Someone wanted me to ask that.
Like, are you talking like
a game that's popular to people, but you don't like it yourself? Like, for me, if I say like Call of Duty, right? But that's a cop out. Like, I don't like Modern Warfare. Let's say Modern Warfare 2.
Well, I'm not asking if it's popular, because like popular is different than praised.
Popular and praised it's kind of the same gist in a sense. It's like everyone loves Modern Warfare 3, but everyone knows it's also a shit game. Like, it's a 50-50. But people love Modern Warfare 2.
I would say shit like the recent sports games like 2K and Madden, fucking COD. Yes, that's a cop out. I agree. I'm trying to think, like, because I can't, like, Tears of the Kingdom. No, I like.
Really?
No, sorry, Breath of the Wild.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, you love Tears of the Kingdom, but you hate Breath of the Wild?
I don't love Tears of the Kingdom. I kind of like it.
Is it because it's more shit involved in that one? Like, there's like a lot more drag on?
I just don't like a lot of the content in the game. I think the combat is fucking alright at best. It's very broken and unengaging. I think a lot of the puzzles are extremely brain dead. I think a lot of the rewards you find throughout exploration are just like, I think the boss fights suck outside of a couple. The story is not interesting to me at all. I'm just not a big fan of the game.
Okay, I'll give you mine because it's gonna cause controversy. It's Warframe.
I haven't played that shit, so I don't know.
Your comments is probably gonna go crazy right now.
Well, I know someone in the chat that's a Warframe guy, Sony.
Yeah, about half your comments probably gonna lose their mind on my comment. The only reason is because I don't like that type of farming. I respect the game's good. Don't get me wrong. I think the game is doing really well. I don't like that type of farming though. I'm more retarded. I like more mainstream baseline farming. I don't like that waiting like 9 days for a fucking frame shit and building weapon and have to farm the individual parts. Unless the game's changed, that's fine. But I was there for like OG Warframe in like near like last 4 years. I don't like that farming.
All right, well, I got no disagreements because I don't know anything about it. But if that's everything, we kind of gotta.
Yep, you're good. I got my stuff.
All right. Thank you for coming on. I think the guy was here first. The guy, Mr. Godzilla. Hello?
The guy, you're on the line. What's the
What
disagreement?
is your
Tell us why.
motherfucking disagreement? Alright.
Well, I guess you don't have a disagreement.
Hi, hola, aloha. What is your disagreement and tell me why?
Oh shit. We're just starting?
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
this is
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're in.
Fuck,
That's what you're in the channel for.
Okay, alright, because we're in the disagreement day waiting room. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. Okay. Well, I kind of went here because I kind of want to talk about the boys for a bit.
All right.
I think the show so far is pretty good. My only real critiques about it is the social commentary, and the start of the Frenchie side plot.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to the Frenchie side plot first because that one is a lot quicker than what I have to say about the actual side plot of than the actual social commentary part. With the Frenchie side plot, my issue isn't the fact that he's finally came out as like bisexual. My issue about it was like how it just started, because it went nowhere for like 3 episodes with the Colin character,
Right.
that they set up, and then like he just leaves after the rest of the series. But now it's actually going somewhere. Now that basically, now in episode 5, like the actual side plot is starting to go somewhere, which is good. So I'm really excited to see more out of that in the future. My actual real issue with the show is the social commentary and how it's being handled so far.
Wait, so you don't have a problem with the Frenchie thing? I'm lost now because I thought.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, my only real problem with the Frenchie side plot was how it started, because it went nowhere for 3 episodes.
I don't think it went nowhere because they were doing a lot of stuff with like, you know, doing the whole back and forth, the whole will they, won't they thing. But it was doing really interesting things with Frenchie's character and how his past guilt is like eating away at him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of got to face it. And now that he's faced it, the guilt just completely eats him up and he, you know, turns himself in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. That part I'm fine with. I was talking about the Colin side plot that kind of went nowhere.
What was the side plot? What do you mean?
Like when Colin and Frenchie were like dating each other and such, and basically had to confess to him and such. I
don't think that's necessarily. I don't think they weren't doing anything with it because that was more of a build-up with Frenchie's character. Like they were doing stuff. If you're saying they weren't doing stuff with Colin specifically, I think he's more utilized for Frenchie's character. He wasn't supposed to be some in-depth, crazy character because he's not even a big part of the show, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's mostly used for Frenchie's character work.
Yeah. My real issue about that area was that it just kind of like it didn't really revolve around the whole like main part of the story, because like each side plot kind of like had some major connection to like the main part of it, which was like Homelander trying to take over the world, with the side plot of Butcher trying to make a virus to kill off Soups, Mother's Milk, and the rest of the boys.
Yeah.
Plotting and trying to find a way to stop Homelander before it's too late. And then there's the Frenchie side plot, where it's like, where it is a confrontation of his past, which is a common theme throughout the whole show. It just really didn't go anywhere with Colin, and it just kind of like ended.
I think that's the point, though.
I guess.
Like, I think the way the relationship started in the first place wasn't a relationship that was supposed to go anywhere. Because how do you have a relationship with someone who murdered your whole family?
Yeah, right. Hey,
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's kind of like my personal issues that I have with that, with the actual writing of the story itself.
All right. I mean, I disagree, but if you want to move to the social commentary stuff.
The social commentary, although I do think there are some parts of it that are still being handled well, like how, because I think season 3 was like at its peak when it came to handling the social commentary, especially with how they dealt with A-Train in that part.
Right.
I thought how they handled A-Train in season 3 was like genius. I actually thought the whole show was genius. I'm super excited about his redemption arc. It's hard for me to see Homelander as a Trump allegory, even though the showrunner and even Anthony Starr have even agreed and confirmed that Homelander is a Trump allegory.
Well, they said it's not just about Trump, because it's more about just broader stuff in America as a whole.
That makes sense.
Because I agree. Like, they said it's the Trump allegory. I don't necessarily even see it or connect with it, because I barely know shit about fucking politics or Trump, but I do kind of understand what they're. I just, on a base level, I understand what they're saying about our world and the world in their universe, with the stuff. I think a lot of it isn't even necessary. I think a lot of the political stuff, they do use some of it for character. Like Stormfront is probably the most prominent example of that. Big, like, actual writing stuff. But then there's other parts of the political stuff where it's like, yeah, they're just using it for laughs at this point. And they're not. The goal isn't even trying to get too deep into it. Like, for example, there's a scene where, you know, it's like the Marvel Comic-Con parody thing.
Oh yeah, the V-52.
Yeah. Like, that is obviously, it's not subtle at all. We know what they're doing with it, with the whole corporatization stuff and criticizing how, like, you know, like the left will like push this shit in media in really dumb ways, and it intrudes on the story. And that part of it is the laugh, but I think the other part of it is what they do with A-Train and also Ryan's character in that moment. Like, I think they use political stuff for laughs, and they also use it for good writing at points.
Yeah. I guess I could use this as an example of like them kind of knocking at the left. I'm not saying that like, oh, it's a very left-leaning show.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would say they probably would lean more left than right. I would say a jab at it would be A-Train's character. Because I felt like he was a critique on like the token black guy.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, where he's like, he's only there to. He basically was a member of the Seven because Vought didn't want to look racist, so they hired a black guy so that they can have him fake preach about his own social commentary about like whatever, basically stating buzzwords and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think season 3 does something interesting as well with A-Train in and of himself.
Mm-hmm.
With that, and the fact that, like, you know, he's internally he's like, yeah, he does want to do good with it, and he's like, yeah, I'm for the like that scene with his brother, and he's like, yeah, I'm for the cause, man. It's like his brother's like making fun of him because he's like, you don't even know what the cause really is, because of the whole, you know, you're only used to how it's shown in the fucking media, as opposed to what it realistically is. So I think it both criticizes the left in that scenario, and it does really interesting things with A-Train's character and his brother.
Yeah, and I love the part where he actually does confront with what was his name, Blue Eagle?
Blue Hawk.
where like the moment he's actually given a chance to do something good for like the black community, he fails miserably on because he doesn't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was very interesting, and it led to a really serious consequence where his brother got paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah. So what was like the problems that you had with the political stuff? More.
I actually wrote this comment on your Critical Drinker video, which is a video I do agree a lot on, although I don't particularly hate the Critical Drinker as a content creator. This video on The Boys was literal trash.
Yeah.
But because like the guy straight up didn't watch the fucking show. I stated that that like Firecracker, I don't think they would I don't think a big news media, a big news like VNN would give something like Firecracker a platform like that, especially with given how delusional the person is. And I get the Daily Wire being a thing, but I don't think the Daily Wire is like, they're most certainly right leaning, but I don't think they're like far right to the point where they're straight up just spreading fear mongering, except for Matt Walsh. Like,
well, it's very much Homelander's. It's very, because Homelander's in charge of VOD at this point. So like him having, because he agrees with Firecracker pretty much. Yeah. He's like there with her beliefs pretty much. So I think it makes sense that she's on there because of the fact that VOD's just that company. Like we know it. Yeah, we know what they are.
I would
just to add on, have you ever heard of the person Melanie Mac?
Melanie Mac?
Because that's basically Firecracker.
No.
Besides the pedo shit.
Melanie.
Because she's very casually a bigot online, but has a pretty big platform.
And she's brought on to like podcasts and like, you know, shows and maybe not shows necessarily, but like big podcasts.
Well, it was brought on. She was brought on like the Steven Crowder show.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So I think it is realistic that they do that, especially considering, you know, the stuff that I just said with like Homelander and Vault.
That's true. Shit, I was gonna say. Oh fuck. I kind of brain farted for a bit. Okay, so we're talking about the Homelander thing. I kind of disagree that Homelander agrees with somebody like Firecracker because he had like complete indifference about her, and I feel like the reason why Homelander brought in Firecracker was because Sister Sage basically told him to.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Homelander's right-leaning. I don't even think he has any political faction. The guy is such a complete narc that he really just doesn't care about anybody. And the only reason why he's using right-leaning politics is so that basically he can have a large following of people that can just follow him blindly. They kind of.
Well, he's more. I kind of see what you're saying with Homelander. I do think there is parts of his character that are just like, yeah, you're a bigot at this point.
Yeah. No, he's 100% a bigot. I'd say he's a bigot towards humans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but also, I think there is some racial stuff in there, a little bit, like like the the disabled stuff, like the stuff with the Chinese guy, like that's
that
fucked.
Shit was fucked up.
But like I see what you're saying in the sense that he doesn't really give a fuck, but the main thing is like that they touch upon is the fact that the side of the aisle in that world agrees more with Homelander, and so Homelander's gonna try and bring in as much attention, as much media attention, as much propaganda for that side so that they look like they're in the better or they look like they're in the right. Like the whole Starlighters killed the fucking Homelander supporters or whatever. It's
Yeah,
like
the whole-
he's trying to uplift that side because that's the side that likes him more. That's his audience pretty much. So yeah.
Yeah. Shit. Just want to say.
Is that all we got now for disagreements?
And what? Also the I think actually, yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for coming on.
All right, thank
catch you later.
you, Optimus Prime.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
No problem.
I really
Goodbye.
appreciate it. You have a good one.
Me too. All right.
You know what we're doing.
He's not in the. Okay.
Oh. Hello,
What is
Jack. You're on the line. What is the disagreement and tell us why?
Well, you kind of already know, but like,
That was just perfect right there.
but for the audience, like, we're obviously gonna get into episode 6 of The Boys and like how they treated or depicted like male sexual assault or SA.
Uh-huh.
And I also like want to get into the comments made by the showrunner Eric Kripke, because to me it's just like batshit insane, like the things he says.
Alrighty, well.
I know you guys already read it, and
I gotta pee real quick. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell SK in the fucking audience whatever you need to say, because I already know what it is.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So my whole disagreement is on the handling of episode 6, particularly with how Huey was, like his sexual abuse was, like treated in this episode. There are like good ways of depicting sexual abuse. Obviously, Ari Aster, the guy who directed Hereditary and Midsommar, he made a short film called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Pretty good short. Like, you can watch it for free on YouTube. It's like around 30 minutes, I think, maybe less than that. But the whole point of that short is to showcase the like the difference we have in perceiving like sexual abuse when it comes to men. Like spoilers, the main topic is a guy getting a guy getting sexually abused by another guy, but it's an unexpected like relationship that they have. I want people to watch this short, so I'm not going to give too much away, but a lot of reception to it was like people laughing. People thought it was funny, purposely funny. When the only time I laughed was during the intro because of the reveal, because it was so like out there. But the rest of the film, like, I was disturbed. Like, it was really dark. But there are people who like generally thought that it was just like a comedy or like being funny on purpose and just laughed at it. And that's the sort of mentality I had initially when looking at that scene with Huey. I'm just like, because like it seemed very off to me. Like the fact that he there's like a certain amount of minutes just centered around him just being subjected to like sexual acts that he doesn't want to go through, but has no choice but to like play along with, like as he guesses safe words. That's like I found that to be genuinely like horrifying to watch. But like something about it was just it seemed off to me. Like if a lot of the humor in The Boys comes from shock value, like pure shock value. Mm-hmm. Like earlier in the season, like a bunch of guys like going down on each other, like you know the sauna scene. Like obviously that's like that's shocking, but it's also kind of portrayed as sort of funny, I felt. And with this, I don't know, like it definitely felt like they were making light of it, and they weren't, and they just mishandled it. And especially, which is jarring, especially considering they covered like sexual assault for women fairly well, like in the entertainment industry in season 1 with Starlight and The Deep. But the difference between those two scenes is that we didn't get like a 10-minute segment like showing Starlight going through the abuse or the sexual act she didn't want to go through with The Deep. And we could have gotten like the point across just as well if it were off screen with Huey and Tech Knight, but they just chose to keep it in. And I was genuinely curious why they made that decision. And then I came across that interview he had with him, or that interview, and I was just so disgusted when he said, like when he was asked why he would subject Huey to this like horrifying predicament, and he pretty much says, "Oh, well, that's a dark way to view it. We viewed it as hilarious," because that's such a different response to like when he was asked questions related to Starlight's abuse. Like he said that it was such a serious moment for him, like having to research, like hear other people's stories. But like the difference in response is just like, wow, it's just really tone deaf.
Okay, well, I'd first like to tackle why this in season 4 was done longer than in season 1. In season 4, the context of it isn't just like a singular moment. This is like a huge plot point for like the whole episode. It's an infiltration that they have to go through in order to do this. So that's why it's longer, as opposed to
It's
what happened
also a
with
different
Starlight.
sexual scenario.
Yeah, I understand that there are different sexual scenarios, but the way it goes about like depicting male sexual assault is done in a way that could have been like done really. It's just really in poor taste the way it was done, because you have like I asked you guys this question over Twitter, and it was like, how would you feel if Starlight were like a past victim of like sexual abuse, were like raped or sexually abused by someone she viewed as a hero, and like we're just subjected to that for a few minutes? Like people, like, it was portrayed in a sort of like comedic way, because I think you can't like I don't see how you can deny that certain aspects of the sexual abuse were like played up for laughs. Like the way Ashley got her lines out, like the way Ashley like talked to Huey, like Huey being uncomfortable. Like I just the framing of the scene.
Well, isn't that why he says? Isn't that why at the end of the episode he says, you know, they did this, and that. Ashley said so many horrible things, and he's literally crying about it at the end.
I want to say, wait. I said this with the last guy. On a metatextual lens, yes, I agree. Some people will look at it and be like, this is so insane that it's funny. Which is what I said to you about the Deep thing on Twitter. It's like, we're not laughing literally at the act. We're laughing at the craziness, the, like, holy shit, this is so out of pocket. Mm-hmm. But in the universe, they're portraying these people as, like, these are fucked up individuals. Like, the stuff with Ashley and the way Huey's reacting to it, the stuff with Tech Knight, and the way he starts to kind of catch on that it's not actually Webweaver, so he's doing this sadistic stuff to Huey, with that suspicion. It's like, Huey is the one that's uncomfortable by it, and we know why he's uncomfortable by it. The show, the audience, it's up to however you want to interpret it, but, like, we know that it's weird. The way the show portrays it is that Huey's the one being normal, these are the weirdos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we kind of already knew that Tech Knight was a weirdo. Like, Ashley and Tech Knight were weirdos. So, a lot of people, including myself, just don't see the need for just this drawn-out segment of him just getting sexually assaulted. Like, I don't see why we can't just find him in chains and just let the writers can't leave it up to the viewers' imaginations as to what happened to him. And he can describe what happened to him, and in a way, that's, like, better than what we like actually see him go through it, because it's hard to imagine.
Well,
right?
Like I said, the reason they're showing it is because it's related to the plot and the plot progression overall. So there's things that they do have to show.
Well, not necessarily. Like, you could Tech Knight can just understand, use his like hyper senses to tell that Huey isn't Webweaver, and just like immediately chain him up in his dungeon to torture him, and not have it in a drawn out scene of him getting sexually abused.
Well,
Like there are tons of different ways you could go about it.
Well, no, the way we see with Tech Knight in his senses, like he's using his senses on him, and all he sees is that he's agitated. And from what we know, like, because we don't know their past interactions or what they've had with each other. I haven't watched Gen V either, so I don't even know what the extent of Tech Knight's powers, but the way it's portrayed in the show, he's looking at his heartbeat. He knows he feels a little agitated. It's like, sure, it's like, yeah, you feel agitated a little bit, but it's like kind of a lot of people would be, so it's not too suspicious. But then we start to see more throughout the course of it that Tech Knight starts to figure it out. And then when he does start to figure it out, we see, like, you know, when Huey says the safe word for the first time, you see, like, Tech Knight's face be like, huh, that's okay. And then they just keep going on and on and on with the stuff. Like, I agree, we know these things about the characters. We know Ashley's a freak. We know Tech Knight is a bit of a weirdo. I don't know what happens in Gen V, but what's it called? The point of showing that is more to, it goes with Tech Knight. Like, they're showing he's a fucking fucked up guy, he's a weirdo, and it's a plot progression of, like, what's the tension to build up, okay, what are they gonna do once they figure out it's actually Huey? So there's more than just, oh, it's being played for laughs. There's tension within the scene. There's stuff that is touching on Huey's character, like he's being put in this crazy scenario, which is what the writer said. Like, we put him in this scenario because he's going into this going, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then this is the thing that's like, okay, yeah, it breaks him completely. So you kind of need to show, maybe not necessarily need to, because I don't think anything needs to do a lot of things, but like, it's them showing that isn't an issue or a big deal, because it impacts, it gives more of an impact to the audience of what Huey's holding in and why he, like, you know, just fucking breaks. Because if we walk in and we're just like, we see him in chains getting his nipples tickled or whatever, we don't see the impact of what Huey just went through.
Yeah, sure. But the main catalyst of Huey's breakdown is him losing his father, and as you said before, him not having anyone to console his problems with, to talk about his problems with. He didn't necessarily need to be sexually abused for that to happen. He could just, like, just seen something very fucked up.
I was saying the sexual. I didn't say he needed to be sexually abused. I'm saying, well, they were the reason they did it, as they said, is because it was something from the comics that they wanted to adapt. You know, Jack Quaid was completely fine with it. He wanted to do it as well. But that was the catalyst for Huey finally breaking down. Because, like the writer says, he is holding this stuff in, saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, like a lot of people do. And, you know, some people eventually do come around to being like, okay, yeah, this has been holding on, like, this has been affecting me for a while, I'm finally ready to open up. But this was a major impact that Huey had on his trauma and his emotional state that just happened with his dad. And now this happens, so this is the catalyst for him coming out to Starlight at the end of it and being like, yeah, I'm not okay at all. And even after that, like, Huey, like, Starlight comes in, it's like, oh my god, this is terrible, like, are you okay, are you okay? It's like, they're not treating it as a good thing at all.
Right, yeah, and I understand that. But the point is just the scenes depicting the SA. Like, the show has, like, this habit of, like, a main thing it does is just, like, have moments just for pure shock value. And a lot of people, including myself, like, find just actually using the sexual assault scenes as a form of shock value as pretty distasteful, and not treating the sexual assault in, like, the not properly treating it with the severity it requires. Like, do you understand?
So, Jack, when Huey breaks down to Starlight at the end of the episode, is that just shock value, or is this something that plays into his arc?
It's obviously not played for shock value.
So then it's not just shock value.
I'm sorry?
So then it's not just being done for shock value.
That's what I was saying the whole time when I was explaining the stuff with Huey, like earlier when I was talking about the scene in general. It's sure you can say it's shock value humor because yes, I agree. There's a part of it that's shock value, but it's also being used for Huey's character.
Yes, but that's true. But you can also just choose not to show it the same way you don't have to show like the Deep shoving his dick down. Or like having Starlight forcibly blow him. Like,
Okay,
you don't need to
show
that.
Two things to break down. Firstly, again, I've explained that with the Deep, this wasn't like a huge point of like plot progression. What actually happens between them, whereas in Huey's case, this is like an infiltration. So again, there's like stuff you do have to show, and on top of this, it feels a little arbitrary to be like, well, it didn't have to be this. You didn't have to show this. Because by that standard, I can just be like, well, in Under the Red Hood, you didn't have to show the Joker hitting Jason with the crowbar over and over and over again, or all the jokes that he was making. Like, yeah, you don't have to, but it all comes down to there's multiple different ways to tell a story. There's multiple different ways to execute an idea, and it really comes down to what's not working about this, and I haven't seen any substantive argument for why this doesn't work.
Well, it's like you don't need to show Batman's parents getting shot in slow motion or some shit, like the fucking BVS scene or whatever, where we see how his parents died or whatever. It's like you don't need to do that. You can just do, oh, quick, it's over. We get it.
Yeah. Well, SK, if you want to bring up Under the Red Hood, like, I think another like Batman-related film that's worth bringing up is The Killing Joke. Like, a lot of people
I haven't seen that.
Like question,
but I know about the controversy.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
It's the same. Like it goes the same way, but a lot of people criticized it for being like going too far. With like obviously Joker cripples her, like and cripples Barbara Gordon, and she becomes that's what causes her to become Oracle later. But he also rapes her, and a lot of fans didn't like that because it doesn't play into anything later. It just shows how unnecessarily depraved.
Well,
Joker
that's where I want to stop you right there. If it doesn't play into anything later, then sure, maybe given the context, you can do that. But even in The Killing Joke, I think it does play into something later, and it's the fact that it touches on Batman's character. Even the fact that Joker raped her, did this shit with Jim Gordon. I'm pretty sure he's also like butt ass naked with the little midgets and people. And at the end of the day, Batman's still like, you don't have to do this. I can rehabilitate you. It's not just playing the Joker's character. It's more so touching on both. Because The Killing Joke is... the movie is mid because of the fucking opening. Like, the whole first half of the movie is completely unnecessary. It doesn't need to be there. But I think the second half of it does really interesting things.
Yeah, and that's pretty much my opinion on the comic. Like, I have an original copy of the comic. I like the comic. But I'm just like pointing out that like there are criticisms of like certain things of like certain things going too far and just like not being necessary.
Sure, but I don't think we've proven this with The Boys. Like, I would need like a substantive argument. Why did The Boys go too far?
Okay, like it just goes. I feel like it, like the first guy said, it just boils down to like showing too much, and
I don't even know what they did that was like crazy too much, to be honest. Because like I agree, like the shit is shock value, funny stuff, but it's like, what's too much? Is tickling his feet like too much? It's not like they're like fucking going to Pound Town on him right now. It's like, I feel like that might be a little too much, but like they're like tickling his feet and like wiping his nose with like whatever the hell that shit was.
I think it was Smegma. Like you know. Yeah,
I mean, like, yeah, that shit's disgusting, but I wouldn't say that's like crazy fucking over the top stuff. It's just like it's funny. I mean, in the sense that it's like, yeah, it is still fucked up, but like it's not like on the, if we're putting it on a tier list of fucked up, I wouldn't put it in S tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I would actually make the argument that what Huey went through is worse, considering like, and like both situations are bad. Don't get me wrong, But like when you're in a situation where you have to pretend for your life to be someone else, and you're essentially just forced to endure rather than like leave. Like that's just a really fucked up situation to go to, and like to have to go through. And like I will say this, like the part where Tech Knight does it, like tries to like finds out that he's not Web Weaver and tries to cut holes into him. Like I will say that wasn't played for laughs. Like that was completely played straight. Like I'm purely talking about the like.
I mean, even I feel like you would though, because like in that scene, he's saying, "I'm gonna cut you open just to find new holes to fuck." Like that's crazy. I feel like that's the craziest thing of all that even happens. And even still, I feel like someone could be like, "Holy shit, that's so crazy that it's funny. That it's so like it's just fucked."
Well, that is. Like I don't know, like as someone who like read the comics, I'm associated with this character of Tech Knight. You don't mind if I spoil like his arc, right, in the comics?
Well, I just don't see what the relevance is for it.
Well, I think it's relevant in the point of how different it is, because the truth about Tech Knight in the comics is that he's you won't get this from the show at all, but he's the most heroic. He's arguably the most heroic character in the entire series. And let me explain. Like he has this desire to fuck anything, right? Like anything with a hole. That's his entire arc in the storyline that he goes through in The Boys. But what makes him heroic, despite having these gross urges, is that he never acts out on it. Like he wants to rape his sidekick, but instead of like doing so, like he sends him away. And he tries going to help. Like that's the first time we see him. He tries to go to a therapist, but the therapist is so disgusted with him that he turns him away. But despite all of this, like he still has a desire to be a hero, and he still wants to like save people, and that's ultimately what he does in the end. He sacrifices himself to get to save the world from a meteor, and it's even the story like of The Boys being what it is brings attention to the fact of how strange or bizarre it is that Tech Knight is as good as he is despite his circumstances. And I think his arc and just like his overall storyline, like how different it is in the comic, shows how different he was handled in the show, and like the amount of creative liberties they went through to have him go through that. Like I would say that like Huey just realizing that Tech Knight's a pervert is a traumatic enough experience for him to go through, considering he like is his childhood hero, right? He doesn't necessarily need to go through the sexual abuse.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's just like a completely different context for The Boys. Like, I don't even know how you would fit that into to season 4. Because it kind of sounds similar to A-Train right now.
Sure. Well, there are some other, like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, like he's supposed to be like Tech Knight's supposed to be a Batman allegory, and we can get to that like part of the interview later, because like I have lots of things to say about that. But you know, you could make obvious like BVS parallels or like Batman Superman parallels with Homelander being like Superman or whatever, and you can make a point of how with like him, like Tech Knight being armor, or like using like the boys convince him to fight against Homelander, and like he fights him in power armor or something, and that goes to show that like he loses or something, and that goes to show that even with all of this military like weaponry, this top of the line military stuff, it's still not enough to bring down Homelander. So that shows that the virus is the only reasonable alternative if they actually want to finally kill him. I don't, like there are probably like there are potential like problems with what I just said, like from a writing perspective, like or reasons why you can't go that route now.
Well, I think
it's just something off the top of my head.
Well, I think that brings in some weird things if they do the whole power armor thing. Because if you can just make power armor as crazy enough to even contend with Homelander, that would be something that would take up a lot, and it would take away from some interesting things that they could do in replacement, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's also considering that this is
like I'm not gonna like I think
the
the Tech Knight thing sounds interesting in the comics. That might be the only interesting thing I've ever heard from the comics, but I just don't see what the problem is with the show, and I don't see how they would even implement that in a way that doesn't make it too similar to A-Train or take away from other characters that are much more important.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's just like like what I'm trying to do is just like highlight the difference between like the comics and the show to show like how many like the sheer amount of creative decisions that they made to have it play out in the show and what else they could have done.
Okay. I mean, I got really nothing for that.
I mean, yeah, there's a conversation of what they could have done versus did it work. I feel like those are two separate things. But
yeah,
I mean,
well,
yeah, go on.
Like, I guess we're at an impasse here because what would you guys say are some like distasteful ways to depict sexual assault? Because you guys seem to be of the opinion that as long as they acknowledge it as being as the sexual assault being bad, then like the depictions like can be okay. But are there like certain depictions that aren't okay to like show on screen, or do you think it can be distasteful or in bad taste?
I mean, I feel like if we're
I'd
talking
have to
about
see it.
like bad taste or distasteful, I mean, there's many examples of how you might be able to fuck this up, but I guess if the characters that are supposed to be taking it seriously don't take it seriously, let's say maybe, I don't know, let's say if Annie were to like make fun of him for it and they gloss over it, that would be a serious problem.
Yeah, or if they were like, you're worried about this while I'm dealing with our abortion thing or some shit, it's like, okay, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Or if they make it seem like it's a good thing or something, it's like, that would be, I guess, distasteful, again, depending on the context of however, whatever wants to use it, it executes it.
Like, there would have to be something I could pull from the episode and say, this is distasteful, this is brushing it aside, this is basically undermining what really took place there. And there hasn't been an example I've seen from people that where the episode actually does that. The only reference I see from people is the interview, but people use like cropped out screenshots that actually leave out what he's saying is funny because he doesn't think the assault itself is funny. If that was true, he wouldn't write the episode how he did.
Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion that his interview like just looks bad, compared to like how he responded to it with the Starlight like sexual assault. Like, I think we can at least agree that he could respond better.
Well,
sure. I mean, specificity-wise, sure, I can understand that. But in terms of what he's actually saying, Colin, you can stream the article now, the Variety one. But he's not just being asked about the assault in the question in that part of the interview. He's talking about, there's multiple things that are being brought up in that question. So it's not just solely talking about that. And I think what's being misunderstood here is that what he's saying is funny when he says we find it hilarious. He's not talking about the actual assault. What he elaborates with is Tech Knight and how he's like a Batman parody and how they were playing around with that trope, as well as like the meta humor with Web Weaver and Spider-Man. Because like nowhere in the statement am I seeing the essay was funny. I didn't see that anywhere.
Like what? Well, what I'm like getting from it is that this series of events that he goes through, in of itself, is funny because, like it's both an awkward. Like I'm just looking at from what his response is, and I'm seeing it as, oh, he just views it as like an awkward like experience because he can't say that he's actually Huey, so he has to play along at like as Web Weaver as like these weird things happen to him when like they're actually really
if
bad.
you literally like just scroll down a couple questions later, it's like this is his actual thoughts on the matter. It contextualizes it more to how he actually feels about it, especially in the context of how the show executes it. Like, even if he did, like, even let's say the showrunner comes in here and he's like, yeah, the sexual assault, that shit's funny as hell, but the show portrays it as a different way. It's like, I wouldn't even, it's like, yeah, that falls on the showrunner. That's his problem. That's not the show's problem, though. Like, if someone was to come out for fucking Across the Spider-Verse and be like, yeah, or sorry, Insomniac or some shit, and was like, yeah, Peter's only teamed up with Miles because he wants to fuck him or whatever. It's like, that's not in the game. What? What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's like on this point, it's just an agree disagree, because people have like just differing reactions to it. Some people seem to think that it's like comedic in nature. Others people seem to think that's just played straight. But like I don't know. I think it also has something to do with just like handling of like sexual related scenes in general. I find that a lot of people like have the take that they don't really see the need in having like sex scenes in a lot of media, they don't see the point, because if the actors are good, they can display the chemistry or the impact of what they went through effectively already.
I mean,
I don't know. It's not
just comes
something
down to
like
however you want to
just,
show
like,
it.
ponder over.
I don't think it's inherently good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it matters on the execution of it.
Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah, we can just disagree on the execution, I guess. But like on to the comments regarding like Kripke's Kripke calling like Batman a fascist. Like, where do you guys fall on that?
I assumed that he was just joking about the this
Well, he said
statement people make
fascist
about him.
underpinnings. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. Like the whole fucking like Blue Beetle, where out of nowhere it's just like, oh yeah, Batman's a fascist. It's like, wait, what? It's like, I think it's more making fun of the fact that people see him as that when it's just not the case.
Yeah, that's why it's a parody. It's like, oh, so this is what you guys see him as then.
I mean, I didn't take it as like a joke on how people like on Twitter or people who like try to dunk on Batman as a character view him. I view it as Kripke's take on like a realistic Batman, which I didn't find realistic at all, because like I trust that you guys understand this. Like,
wait, where did he? Wait, where did he say that it's like a realistic take on Batman or whatever? Where was that?
No, I'm saying that that was like what I got out of it. I didn't see that it was it was like an Alan Moore sort of like take
but where
on
could you have gotten
Batman,
that?
where he criticizes him as being like in real life, if Batman existed, he would be a fascist or like a bad person. That's the sort of like take I got away from it. It wasn't like making fun of people who actually believe that's what Batman is.
Right, but I'm asking where in the quote itself did you get that from? That he believes that Batman's a fascist.
Like when he talks about like sending him to prison, or like how he profits off sending people to prison, like beating up homeless people, like poor people, etc.
Well, yeah, he said he was playing around with the trope, which, yeah, that is a trope where people claim Batman is a fascist. And I mean, it's not even just like outside of Batman media, even inside Batman media, like The Dark Knight Returns, for example. You have a dude that's on a show calling Batman a fascist and shit like that.
Yeah, and but that guy was also like acknowledged as being an idiot because he thought he could reform like Joker and other criminals when like that wasn't the case at all. He got like his throat slashed for it. And to me, it's just like whenever these criticisms of the character like come up, like you just point them to like the classic episode, Batman animated series episode, The Trial, because it's like all like that episode to me has like aged incredibly well for this type of like topic, because it's made abundantly clear that these characters, or like these villains that Batman finds himself fighting, they would be evil even without Batman. Like he doesn't just fight like poor people down there like bums. He fights like most of the time rich people, rich mobsters, eccentric people with superpowers who don't care about like keep the people they hurt in whatever delusions of grandeur they may have.
Okay. I guess what I'd say is, like, I feel like there's a specific purpose as to why he specifies this is a parody of Batman. Like, this is not actually who Batman is. You know, it's like, I guess think of it like maybe the college humor Batman skits, where the Dark Knight trilogy, they constantly make jokes about Christian Bale's Batman being a weirdo. You know, like, I feel like that's what he was going for in that regard.
Well, yeah, like, also, you look at, like, the web weaver thing. It's like, yeah, we know Spider-Man's not a drug addict that shoots webs out of his ass, but, like, they're making fun of the what if he shot webs out of his butt thing. The drug addict thing, I don't know where that came from. I think that's just original, like, thing. It's like, what if Spider-Man was a cracked out weirdo? But it's still a parody at the end of the day. In the same way that, like, you know, you got you got racist Batman with a black butler, and like he just kills him because he's tired of his shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can parody something and also have it serve as a sort of critique in a way. Like, again, that's what like Alan Moore did with Watchmen and a lot of the heroes he depicted.
I think it just comes down to a difference in what you want to do with the parody, and if his goal, which I still think his goal is to like be like, oh, okay, let's make fun of the fact that, like, what if Batman actually was a fascist? Because he's like, yeah, we wanted to make fun of the trope of Batman having fascist underpinnings or whatever.
Okay, well, again, like, I agree to disagree on that point, I guess, because I just didn't see that.
Okay.
All
right. Well, what are your predictions for how the season will end? I guess as closing thoughts.
No clue.
I'm not quite sure.
No clue. Like, do you think they'll get the virus, or do you think they'll fuck it up somehow?
I think Butcher.
I think Butcher's character's in an interesting spot where they can go either way, and it'll be good either way.
I think Butcher's gonna try to do something with the virus to see if he can contain it, somehow. But I guess that would be my first guess.
Yeah. I definitely see Butcher going down the deep end, and I think he's going to unintentionally get Ryan hurt somehow. And I think that's going to that's going to be a major like driving force of the final season, and why and just like serve as justification for the characters to just finally just like fight each other, just like for every like episode in that final season to be a bloodbath. But I don't know, it's just a guess on my part.
All right.
Well, it was a nice convo.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you guys later, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
That was tame, surprisingly. That was
Oh, I didn't expect it more.
Dude, that was like the last one. Maybe it's just like an interval. Maybe he's like Lucas. He's got the multiple personalities. Because like it started with blood, and then there was a
bloody
calm
on
one,
Twitter.
and then the next one was blood, and then this was a calm one. So it's just an interval of blood and calm. All right, Mr. Carr's been waiting. Mr. Carr, are you here?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
All right, what is the disagreement, and tell me why?
Oh, it's just like, it's not necessarily like, it's just the way like okay, let me explain. Like, you know how like when you like, okay, my issue was when you like told all the like you explained that the critical drinker fans were like dumb, but my main issue wasn't necessarily like, my issue was specifically like when you tell like a certain group is dumb on the opposing side, it makes it harder for the opposing side to like understand you. So it's like,
I agree, but this is what I'll say. I didn't say his fans in general were dumb because I used to like his content before I found it repetitive, and I knew his reviews were bad for a lot of them. I disagreed with a shit ton of his reviews, but I found them funny. But it gets more repetitive after a while. So I was more saying, if you think this guy genuinely has good media takes or media analysis, then I think you're pretty dumb. That's more what I'm saying. I agree. Maybe it's not the most productive, but I find that side that actually thinks that's productive media discussion to just not be able to budge either way. So I don't think it's gonna be productive anyway.
all right, I understand. I'm trying to think what else I was gonna say. I mean, like, okay, I think another issue was like, I think like when he was talking about like, no one was like cheering for like the Homeland. I think like you basically like it was mainly talking about the people that aren't actual Homelander fans specifically. That was like my only issue with it. Actually, the video is actually pretty good, to be honest with you. I actually agree a lot with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just like it was just like you know, like a few like issues I had with it, and that was really it, honestly.
All right.
I mean,
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming
all right, that's it. Thank you. Hope you have a good day, man.
You
You too. All right, young Sheldon.
Oh shit, I'm in. I am in. Wait, let me mute this.
You're in, my guy.
I'm in. Let me put my. Okay, I need to make this quick. It's late and I have to die.
What?
Wait, what?
Okay, fuck, what was that dog profile guy's name?
Jack Kentner.
Kate Kentner.
Jade Kettner, yeah. So, I to prove his, I'm gonna just agree with him. The scene was clearly meant to be comedic. It had the same tone as other sexual and nudity jokes in the show. And also, Kripke is not above making male essay jokes, because he did one in Gen V when two women
He's not the writer for the show, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
And I don't care about Gen V.
I think they have complete. I haven't even watched Gen V either.
Okay, damn. Fuck. What else do I have? Nothing much. I just want to say I hate Kripke. He's stupid. He doesn't like fashion, but he's a Zionist. You can kick me out. Have a great day, man.
Okay. What the fuck was that?
I don't know. Alright, Janin.
Yeah. Hello, Jan.
Hey there again, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I am just chilling, just got home a little while ago, been engaging with some people in the chat a little bit, huh? Glad you're doing well. Let's have for another round of chats.
What is the disagreement? Tell us why.
Yeah, so my disagreement is actually kind of with both of you guys. So I've been, I saw you had Jack on earlier, and him and I've been talking because he responded to a comment on the last disagreement of the week, and he's shown me the drinker video, and he's shown me your guys' videos, and I found your responses to be kind of lacking in the kindest way possible. So I was wondering if, I had some thoughts about it, if you'd be able to run through it with me, because I have a couple of things. I appreciate some of this you already retreated with Jack, so I'll just start off the bat. The calling it the worst review, your response obviously last time, as I remember watching the stream, was it's hyperbole. My contention immediately is, I agree, the worst part is the hyperbole. In terms of it being a review, do you think that
it wasn't just the I didn't say it was just hyperbole. That wasn't my only thing that I said.
Sure. So I'm just laying the groundwork for, do you feel that the question of whether or not it is a review is something that's worth
I think I don't really care to get into the pedantics of if it's a review or not, but what I will say is he was making statements about the show's writing quality.
Objective statements about the show.
Yeah, objective statements about the show's writing quality. So in that sense, it would be like, okay, I'm watching, like I made a video about like a fucking movie that came out, and then I was saying, oh yeah, this movie's so bad, the character arcs are bad.
Let me take a go at it.
Okay.
So let's say MCU Spider-Man 4 came out, and then I'm like, maybe the fourth one will actually be good this time. And then I look at Rotten Tomatoes reviews, and I'm like, oh, I guess not. And I base my I guess not off the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, right? And on top of that, I say, MCU Spider-Man 4 isn't interested in telling a story. It's just interested in making him the sidekick of Iron Man and living up to his legacy or whatever. And I base this off out of context things. When I haven't watched the movie, I'm just saying these things about what it's doing. I say, oh, it's not trying to tell a story. It's not trying to tell a story. And it looks even worse if there's evidence in that movie that contradicts exactly what I'm saying. So it would be like that. That's the level of problematic we're talking here.
Well, I was more along the lines of like, kind of what SK said, but like, the stuff he's saying about the show, like, it's stuff you would hear in a review. Someone talking about their thoughts of the show. It's like you're making qualitative statements about the show, but you haven't even watched it, so you're basically reviewing something you haven't even watched.
Sure. So I agree. He does make statements about. So there's the big ol'. As I remember, he when the video starts, he says, I checked out the season 3 because of he gives a bunch of statements about the show. And this is my honest opinion. Maybe you guys differ. But like my honest read on when someone does something like that is they are listing how they feel about it. I agree in a vacuum, me saying, okay, like following with your Spider-Man example that you set up, right? Let's say that I was making that video, the hypothetical video about the hypothetical Spider-Man 4, and I've seen Homecoming and I've seen all 3 of them actually. So yeah, but I said that, I kind of checked out at No Way Home because let's just say I feel XYZ through Epsilon, right? Like just random statements. Do you feel that those are statements that I'm not allowed to make in that video unless I substantiate them? Like, if I just said that statement, you would say that that's not fine. I would need to substantiate every single one of them.
Well, I guess in the context of the video itself, I think if you're going to say this is destroying an audience, you need at least some kind of example. Because here's the thing. He's going to have people that think this show is good, that it thinks it isn't destroying the audience. So they're going to be like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So when I went into it, I'm like, so I haven't seen like any attempt to argue or to even give an example of what the show itself has actually done. And I think that's the core issue with this video here, is that if anybody who thinks otherwise looks into this, they're going to think that he's just talking out of his ass because he hasn't explained anything.
Yeah, in terms of the show's quality itself, hey, I completely agree with you. There's no references in that video to particular issues at all. But of course, then, I think the question worth asking, what I feel want to start this whole thing off with is, do you feel that a show losing its audience is necessarily related to its quality? Or are there assessments that we could make that are external to the show itself that would determine if it lost its audience?
Well, that's a separate argument, but I do want to say the show's actually not losing its audience at all. It's actually the highest viewed season we're streaming right now, Jaden, so don't...
Hold on, Jaden.
What's it called? It's actually the highest viewed season of them all. So not only is Drinker just completely wrong about that, but the way he was using the metric to judge... Dude, can you, like, stop? No, I'm stupid ass.
Crack on.
What's it called? He was using Rotten Tomatoes to judge, even though like it's common sense that those like people that like review bomb on stuff like that, like IMDb. I mean, if you look at the actual things and you see a bunch of like 1 stars, it's like, okay, yeah, it's obviously review bombed. There's no nuance.
Sure, I agree, and I haven't checked the numbers of this. I assume you have. The specific numbers weren't, in the videos themselves, but yeah, no, I'm happy to trust them now. My point more is, in terms of, reception, right? We can see objectively on Rotten Tomatoes the scores of Job. Now, I am immediately aware there's, Rise of Skywalker is the big one. I actually looked into it, and part of that had to do with them introducing. Before Rise of Skywalker, there was like a whole guy made a Reddit thread about it. They introduced like verified accounts, and so the reviews for Rise of Skywalker are only pure from the verified ones, which conveniently dropped just before.
I think that happened because of the Captain Marvel shit.
yeah, it did. So that's, you know, obviously my point being those are pretty extraneous. And in terms of hate bombing, I find, yeah, sure, that's true. We're gonna have to agree though that those people hate bombing it, they presumably would have been there prior seasons as well. So if the level of hate bombing in and of itself has increased, I feel you'd surely have to agree that that itself is a testimony to an overall greater negative sentiment towards the show being present than prior. And so my question, I guess, is why do you guys suppose that's there? Because I think that's what Drinker's point really was, hey, well, okay, so charitably, I agree with you in terms of anything assessing the show. He didn't present it. I think his video didn't have like a lot of supporting evidence beyond I looked at Rotten Tomatoes. I wouldn't call his video particularly high quality, but then a lot of your guys' counters in your videos had to do more with, Colin, I know you read a bunch of the reviews, which, yeah, Rotten Tomatoes people, they're going to be not very clever on average, and then SK, you presented like specific counters or like examples for why you believe the show itself to be good, which is fine, like in a, you know, in an absolute stand, you know, in a vacuum. But in terms of responding to Drinker's point, which I believe to be the show has more negative reviews than it did prior, and his belief for that is it is because the writers have started to be, let's say, more brazen with inserting particular material into it, and they have
Putting
also
politics
become
over
more brazen.
storytelling, as you put it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. To use his words, putting politics over storytelling, yeah, and focusing on messaging over storytelling, politics over storytelling, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then his supporting evidence for that is Kripke's response, right, wherein he says, I don't have it right here in front of me, but he says something to the effect of, if you don't like, you know, if you don't agree, we have a message we want to present. If you don't agree with it, or if that, you know, you find that distasteful, then you're welcome to not watch. Which his point there would be, that's not a good way to win your audience, right? Or like to get more people to look at it in a favorable light.
Right, but the thing that Kripke was responding to had nothing of substance for him to respond to. You know what I mean? It's like if someone's just shouting woke, 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 woke at your movie or your show that you're making, it's like, okay, dude, I don't care. Don't watch it. Give me something to chew on. Like, give me something to improve upon, right? It's like, I don't remember necessarily, but I wanted to go back to what you were saying earlier with the whole, you think that's a good metric to judge a negative connotation with the show's quality since the review ratings have dropped. I disagree purely off the basis of the review bombing is something that like affects that heavily. So, and in the political climate that we are today, like you look at like the Marvels, for example, that shit was review bombed before people even watched the show. Like, we know why that is. It's like, they don't even know anything about the quality of it. They don't even know a lot of, like, when you even look at the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, it's like, oh, this is woke politics, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, what the fuck is your point there? You're just stupid at this point. I don't know what, because, like, a lot of things is like, oh, it's more woke now than it ever was before or whatever. It's like, can you give an example? Can you give something of substance? Like,
yeah. Point of clarification, though. So again, I appreciate this is I'm being a bit specific here, but it's to a grander point. My contention isn't that reviews are a good indication of a product's quality. My point is, because that would be, you know, appeal to popularity. My point, of course, is they're a good indication of the sentiment of the product's quality or the overall public approval of that particular product. I think the question of and I think the question in and of itself of why this is happening is worth interrogating, and Drinker's answer to that is Kripke's responses and conduct. Sorry, SK, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I can agree, but I think the core problem is that he immediately sides with the people that are going against the show. He's very much biased towards them. And on top of that, he says, I wanted to look at both sides, but if he wanted to look at both sides, he would look at the show itself. Because they're making claims about the show in Rotten Tomatoes. So if you want to look at both sides, you would want to look as much as you can into season 4, as opposed to just going by one quote, which isn't even responding to each and every point people are making.
So, yeah, I was kind of I was kind of hoping you'd say that, because I think you made that exact point in your video. I think you both did, and it's a point I kind of have a contention with. So, Drinker's video is presented from a perspective of, and the end of the video, I will completely agree with you. It is for him to voice his opinion that season 4 of The Boys, he deems it not worth watching, and his supporting evidence is what you guys argued. That's all fine. However, what he is arguing from is not a position of someone who wants to give the show a fair shake, as in a review. He's arguing from the position of someone who wants to determine whether to even watch it. Now, let's say I have a friend, right? I have a friend that I trust, and I'm deciding whether or not to go.
I think I know where you're going with this. I think it's fine to like go over something and say this is why I don't want to watch it.
Cool.
That's one thing. But the problem is that he doesn't just say that. He adds on like claims attached to what the show is doing. And the problem is that you need to watch it to properly substantiate those claims to begin with. And he already seems to be like, this creator here, he isn't taking any of the criticism, the constructive criticism towards the show. But in order to actually take the criticism, we need to know if the criticism is remotely valid to begin with. And to know if the criticism is valid, you would have to watch the show. If people are just saying things that are invalid, and attaching woke to it, then like a quick, brief, but polite way of writing it off is just saying, if you don't like what I'm going for, then I don't know, do something else. Because they're not focused on, they don't seem focused on making like constructive points against it. They're just throwing labels.
It's like if I made you like a fucking quesadilla or something, and the person didn't like it. They're like, "This is shit." I'm like, "Okay, what didn't you like about the quesadilla? What did I do with the flavors or something?" And he's like, "I don't know, just sucked." It's just like, does that tell me anything, or I'm just like, okay, then just don't fucking eat it. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. So the thing is, that would kind of obviously hypothetically, I take your point. My contention that, so if I can just restate kind of what my understanding of your guys' position is that in fact he didn't have sufficient information to write it off, and him making that video speaks to just like him trying to basically make up his mind, and he's justifying his pre-made up mind with.
Let me just say something and see if you agree with it. So I think I wouldn't even make the response video if his video was literally just, I'm not watching this show because look at what these Rotten Tomatoes reviews are saying, or I'm not watching this show because the ratings dropped and I didn't like the past seasons or whatever. There's not even anything for me to make a response to in that scenario. I would probably be like, okay, that's a pretty stupid reason for not watching it, but whatever. Not even worth a video. But the problem I have is when you attach things like, oh, this show is bad. The writers saying this, and this is why the show's quality is dropping. They're not telling a story. It's all politics, no substance. It's like, now you're saying things that are actually related to the show's quality or the season's quality. But he does talk about the show as a whole, so I guess, the show's quality. So it's like, okay, now I have something to actually talk about, even though there's no substance in the video. It's just like, the point of the video necessarily is to be like, okay, this is a really bad view of looking at things, of not only trying to criticize something you haven't even watched, but it's also got the fact that you're not watching the show because you're trusting things that you don't even know is true or not, based on the worst possible way to see if something is good or not.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I get that. It's just, again, I'm kind of going back to because I'm trying to reset a little bit with specifically Drinker's issue. His point, of course, was again, people seem to be, the audience reviews seem worse. You guys, obviously, hate bombing and everything. I generally like to think hate bombing and love bombing will equate each other, broadly speaking out. And in general, we would agree that reviews seem to be worse for this particular piece of media. Now, the question, of course, becomes...
I kind of disagree with what you're saying, because I think review bombing is much more common than, which, as you referred to it as, love bombing. Yeah, because, honestly, most people don't even go to review sites to actually leave a review on the show. Majority of people don't do that. You're either... Okay.
Yeah, let me ask you this. When I go to an aggregate, right, I suppose you would agree you'll find the biggest, ends of most people leaving the reviews will be 5 stars and 1 stars, right? Because people go on, leave a 5 star, people go on, leave a 1 star. I don't really think that 3 stars, 4 stars, they get utilized that much. Even if I go on Amazon and I pull up a random product, that'll probably be the case. So what I'm saying there, in effect, is I agree the quantity itself might not be, but again, I would refer to my previous point, which is if the love bombers if the hate bombers in this instance outweigh the love bombers, that still betrays a statistical bias towards, the former.
Yeah.
Which then my conclusion would still remain, well, more people seem to generally be leaving disfavorable reviews. And so the question must be answered why this is the case. Now, Drinker, again, presents a case of, it's the politics are being pushed into it and Kripke's conduct, right? You, I think, validly point out that the question asked Kripke in the interview it's a sort of softball question, really, about people, who dislike it, saying it's woke, but it's a fair question to ask. A lot of people say that. I'm definitely inclined to agree. Kripke's response is a fair one. It's an honest one. I would say if I was interested in actually what I would like to think I would say is, well, my advice to the people saying that is bad as woke is, hey, watch the show, and if you still think it's woke, whatever. If you don't think it's woke, don't watch the show. I feel that'd be a more generally good way to respond to that. And then I guess what I'm hearing from you guys is you feel that you would attribute that merely to the show is political and politics has never been more divisive than it is currently, so it is to be expected that over time as politics get more and more divisive and politics
I
becomes
disagree.
more and more...
I think season 4 has generally just as much political humor as previous seasons, to be honest.
Right, but so my point then, it's not, I'm not even addressing, again, I've not seen season 4, but I'm addressing more the contents of the, not the contents of the show itself, rather the general perception around politics. I think we'd all agree that we have been trending to be more politically divided in the West writ large.
Yes.
I mean, I'm kind of like you, I don't follow politics much, but it's plain to see, right? I'm pretty sure, we're at a point where, based on if someone tells me they like Star Wars, I'd be pretty able to guess where they are politically, which sucks, right? But so, I'm my issue with that contention is I still find it difficult to believe that is purely responsible for such a massive resurgence on the premise that there seems to be... Go ahead.
I want to say, I think a common thing, and even I see it with my videos, for example. If I make a bad review about something, say something's bad, it tends to get more views than saying something is great. And I see this very frequently throughout, not just YouTube, but like other stuff. It's like negativity and drama tends to get more traction, and it tends to stir more action,
which is unfortunate,
than positivity.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that is a way bigger factor that we need to take into account when it comes to review bombing versus love bombing. Because if I love a show, there's a chance I'll just throw it on Letterboxd, be like, okay, yeah, if given that I even use Letterboxd, a lot of people don't even use Letterboxd or any review sites. It's like, if I love it, I'll either make a video on it or throw it on Letterboxd or any other site that I use to track stuff. And it's like, it's fine. But if I hate something, I'm obviously gonna be like, more inclined to want to trash on it because it made me mad.
Sure. I'm inclined to agree with that. I'd say broadly speaking, in terms of audience response, right? Drama tends to attract a lot of people. That's like why fucking Love Island is the most popular thing on air in the UK, right? Because it's just a bunch of people arguing, basically. I can agree with that. I still would say, though, that broadly speaking, and obviously we've talked, I personally not a massive fan of The Boys after season 1. I feel that there can be, people are willing to tolerate, I think, other politics, as this would be the one accurate thing that Drinker points out, provided the writing is solid. In general, because people can just engage with the story. Like, there's plenty of...
I agree, but I'm saying, but that would string along with my point, I think, because if we're talking about the radicals that will get super upset about it no matter which way you spin it, because even though, I thought was ironic that Drinker said it, because even the slightest hint of politics he doesn't agree with, it's like, oh, woke, or this part of the thing was bad or whatever. It's like, he does that a lot, and so does that group. That's the group of people that he not only associates with, but is a part of, pretty much, that spew the same nonsense. I think
Nerdrotic and that sort of thing.
Yeah, shit like that, and that audience. It's they are much more inclined to be like, yeah, we're gonna go review bomb this fucking thing.
I'm not actually necessarily sure that's true. I just feel that media currently presents them with so many different targets that it's pretty easy for it to materialize, because there isn't a lot of like extreme, like in terms of, again, not to get into politics too much, but in terms of things that are perceived as pushing, as he would put it, the message, obviously outnumber those that don't presently. So my point is the extremes on, the other end, they don't really have a chance to go after media. They would tend to go after, like people like them, right? Because there just isn't a lot of that kind of media being made, and even if it is made, well, there was like that one movie, I forget what it's called, recently, about like the border stuff.
Can we agree that majority of the audience watching anything or consuming any piece of media is the casual audience, right? You would agree?
Sure. Yeah. I'd agree. 100%.
So, I think, given like, I'm sure you know people like in your life that are just casual about things. They don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you like a movie, it's like, yeah, that was really good. You move on with your day. You don't sit with it too much. Even if they hate something, it's like, oh, that was bad, whatever. Whereas I guess people that are more involved and care more about like media in general will have more of a reaction on either side. I think, however, given the fact that most of the people watching it are not only going to be casual, but the negative stuff, even if they are, that is more inflated than positive stuff. So when you have a more extreme side, it's going to overpower the people that are like, oh yeah, I really love this thing. Like, even if they aren't casual, it's like, oh yeah, I really love this thing. It's fine. Most people in general, whether you're casual, especially not casual, but like even when you're extreme, you don't go to sites. But I think the extremes on the negative side are more inclined to review bomb, especially if it's politically motivated.
Yeah, sure. I don't actually particularly find any of that to be super disagreeable. My qualm, though, would be in terms of the casual audience, right? The casual audience, I think, more than anything, is going to be pretty easy to sway by things external to, I would say, politics in particular. Like, I'm sure we all have this hypothetical friend, right? Like, Transformers is like, what is the fucking politics of Transformers, right? It's fucking, I don't even know what that is. But they all enjoy that show, right? Or enjoy that movie. And my point is, I think, in terms of the casual audience, I would anticipate something like The Boys. Even if I personally am not compelled by the storytelling, it has enough there, like, style-wise, it has a very particular, sort of thing it's doing that not a lot of things, at least certainly at the time, were doing when it was being released. And so in terms of capturing a casual audience, there's a lot there. But then we get to, again, the matter of reviews. I'm assuming then you would say that the casuals aren't the people leaving the reviews. The people leaving the reviews are the people who had an extremely strong, either first-hand or second-hand read. They heard it from someone else.
I'm not saying it's exclusively people who
the majority.
Yeah, I'm saying majority of the people leaving the reviews on the sites are probably going to... I mean, we can look at it right now, to be honest. Like, if we look at the Rotten Tomato thing...
Season 4.
Tomatoes.
It's 52% presently. Audience score.
Yeah, well, I wanted to look at the... Alright, there we go. The Boys. Wait, how do you see specific seasons on this shit?
I just put it in Google as Boys Season 4 Rotten Tomatoes, so I just got the...
So... Oh, it doesn't have, like, the IMDb...
if you want to, I have it on... Are you looking for, like, the reviews going one by one, or...?
No, I'm more looking at, like, the percentage of 1-star, 5-star, 4-star...
Oh, it doesn't have... Yeah, no, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't have that breakdown, but I mean...
IMDb does, I think.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we can... IMDb should broadly reflect it. Let me just check that. The Boys season...
I think The Boys doesn't do specific seasons, though. That's the problem. IMDb.
Yeah, you might be correct, actually. It does have it. Oh yeah, they do the thing where they have it in the title, but they don't have it like by category on the looks of things. Actually, wait, season 4.
Oh, okay.
It has individual reviews, but it doesn't have the season overall. Though I will say on IMDb, the reception is broadly much more positive than Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I would say that probably.
Well,
would be
that's because
attributed
it's
to-
like, that's just like primarily because like just the show overall, like because that's what
yeah,
it's doing
and
pretty much.
it's also a case of, I think it's worth pointing out, IMDb I find is more niche than either Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes for that matter. More people go to those two than IMDb for their reviews, I find. But I don't have the numbers there. Yeah, I mean, okay, returning to I guess the point a little bit, because yeah, no, I of course agree that yeah, you're right. People will have strong responses. People will leave reviews on things. I would ask you this in response. Do you find that people who leave those reviews, I think we have to agree that the primary sample size there is going to be preferentially composed of people who either seen the show or are pretty heavily involved with the show in general. Like they're not going to be just people. Like no one's going to go to that drinker video and just be like, "Ah, fuck, I'll leave a negative review on Rotten Tomatoes." Fuck this show.
I think there are people that do that just because of.
Yeah, but not a lot.
I don't know how to judge that metrically, to be honest. Maybe we get like a focus group together, we figure that out. But
I think it's a safe assumption on the premise that we just had that whole discussion about casual people. I find that logically follows. But
yeah,
like
I'm more saying like I think what I'm saying with the radical stuff is like even if they hate like again like the Marvels for example, that shit got review or She-Hulk. That shit got review bombed before people even watched it. Yeah. That's coming from obviously from the extreme side. So I do think yes, there are going to be people. It's like, oh, my favorite YouTuber said this is woke. 1 star. Get this out of fucking Hollywood or whatever.
Sure, yeah. But then, I mean, I would expect those people to be drowned out after the majority of the reviews actually come in from the people who watch because you also find, I looked a little bit into the algorithm stuff just for this, and it's like a case of most people who leave reviews on these things are going to be also leaving, like they use the site in general, right? These aren't just randoms that once in a lifetime they leave a review.
It is funny that Kronos mentions they review bombed the wrong acolyte.
Yeah, I know. That shit was pretty fucking funny. that was hilarious, in fairness. Like, no, yeah, obviously you'll get that. Like, I mean, so okay, I'll circle us back to this. I personally find the point of Drinker's video to be, obviously absent all the valid stuff I think you point out about blanket statements that he makes that aren't substantiated about the show's quality, which, yeah, I don't think he should be making. Though I will point out, though I think this you'd extend the criticism for this, a lot of his reviews are like that. He will just say things about it because he doesn't want to. I think his rationale or what he presents is he doesn't want to spoil things. He doesn't want to, But whatever. We can leave that aside now.
I disagree because I've seen stuff like some of his negative reviews, or I think a movie we just watched recently, and then we heard Critical Drinker who was like he had made a really bad review about it. Was Midsummer, if you know what that is.
I'm Jack told me about that. I'm aware of that through him actually.
Yeah. So like. That is we watched that, then we watched this thing, and he did spoil it. Like he basically went through the plot and he was like, yeah, this is what happened to the plot, so and so and so. So I don't think he's a non-spoiler guy.
I'd say he would say it. I don't know that he always holds the standard. I know like it's a case of his reviews tend to be pretty vague, which I would agree with you is a fair criticism. I think the big selling point for him is he says stuff that is generally agreeable and people, it's digestible content. It's like 8 minutes, right? He's not making massive, even 30+ minute breakdowns these days. So people consider that a chore. But like, so what I extract from that video to be his point is, The Boys season 4 is, not being particularly well received. His point is on Rotten Tomatoes, score went down relative to proportional to the, in a manner that's disproportional rather to the other seasons. His conclusion, Eric Kripke is, and I think you guys just had a conversation earlier. I think he is increasingly saying more and more. I don't want to say invalid, but like optically not particularly good stuff. Like with the whole Huey thing, I don't, again, I've not seen the season itself, so I don't know the particular context. But I think you guys would agree that optically, that particular statement doesn't look great to most people.
I can agree.
Well, I think, yeah, but I also think it's a product. It's not even just with Kripke. It's like people take a lot of, like Jack, for example. He took this one article where Kripke was like, he's kind of a Trump allegory, Homelander. He's like, yeah, that confirms it. I'm correct. But if you actually scroll down and actually read the thing, he's like, yeah, it's not just exclusive to Trump. It's like, yeah, this is a broader point of more broad things.
All fascist, things. No, I get that, but of course, he came out at a particular Homelander. Well, actually, in the last stream, I think there was some contention on that. You would both agree now he's kind of a Trump allegory, at the very least.
I've already seen that since season 2.
Well, it would be like if you were to say, I think killing is good, right? And then someone cropped out what your full sentence, or, because you also have to take into account some of these articles that are being written, they're taking, quotes that might even be not even 100% what they say. Because the only time I see it as that through line, and even sometimes you can't really see it because they edit stuff out, will be the video interviews, right? But if you were I think killing is good, but then you don't add in the context of if it's for so-and-so reason, or if it's not bad under certain context, then it's obviously going to look a lot worse than it actually is.
Yeah, out of context. No, I get that. Obviously, Twitch culture, right? People clip each other all the time out of context. Yeah, no, so my point, though, would be, and what Drinker's point is, and I think this is why I'm kind of inclined to agree with his point to a fair degree. I think Kripke recently has been making a large amount of statements that optically look terrible. Even, I grant you the context thing for your particular thing with Jack, right? But specifically his recent statement, and then specifically the statement Drinker highlighted. What he highlighted, I think I understand that response. I still feel a showrunner should never say, or if I was, a PR guy for a showrunner, the words, if you don't like it, don't watch it, they should never leave your mouth, because that is alienating potential viewers.
I 100% agree with you under a certain context, because I remember when Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out, there were a lot of the devs that were coming out saying, if you don't like it, don't play it. But people are actually...
Well, did you see that Cullen had an article written on him?
I saw. I've heard of this. I've not seen it actually.
there were devs coming out saying, if you don't like it, just don't play it. Well, people are actually giving good criticism. I think you can say, okay, like I gave with the quesadilla example earlier. I think it's fair to say, okay, then just fuck off. I don't care. If you're not saying anything of substance, which is what the Kripke article was, which is why I would defend that one, as opposed to someone being like, oh, this is the plot hole, and they're just like, okay, fuck off. That's not a good response to that.
Yeah.
But under the context, I think it's a fine response to what he says. Maybe you could have worded it better, but again, it's I don't think you can expect people to be perfect. We're all people at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're famous, especially when you're famous. You got to be very careful with the words you say, because any little misstep or any cut context, it could cause an uproar, which I think is extremely unfair for a lot of people.
Yeah, though I feel the argument from my side of the fence then, because I agree with you. Yeah, obviously with the quesadilla example, if it's you giving me a quesadilla and we're in a social setting or whatever, I would add a response like that. Yeah, sure, you can tell me. It might even be playful, fuck you, go fuck yourself then. Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If we're on live TV with a bunch of people and it's not a scripted bit, I feel that my response would be, and it ought to really be dramatically different. And this is kind of my issue with Kripke and why I'm inclined to agree with Drinker. I feel that a lot of Kripke's behavior, and he is a lot more in the public eye now because of all the stuff around season 4, the conversation on social media about it. Obviously, he's been pretty vocal as well. He is in a position now where he is saying a lot of things, and it turns out that a lot of the things he says are sometimes... say one thing for Eric Kripke. Say he seems to, he doesn't sugarcoat what he says, right? Which is a good thing overall, but in his particular position, I think I can completely agree and see Drinker's point that it's damaging the show. Now, as to his point about Kripke personally and his competence as a writer,
well, I don't know if it's I don't think I agree that it's damaging the show. Maybe it's damaging the public,
the perception of it. Yeah,
perception of it. Yeah. So but you can continue with what you were saying.
So I'll amend that to it's damaging the public perception of his show, which in terms of losing an audience, again, I don't know all the facts or figures on that particular aspect, of which I really ought to have looked up, to be fair, but it's a case of, I'm perfectly happy to agree, and I'd have no difficulty imagining the Boys isn't actually losing his audience in the sense of there's not a lot of people still watching it. My question would then, I guess, be to you guys, do you feel that, because with your guys' videos kind of going up to that aspect of it, I feel you both addressed primarily the review component of his video and the absence of content on that front, which is fair, but it really, I don't think, was the main point of his video. I think the main point of his video was to say Eric Kripke's behavior is, not particularly well thought out, and I think that the show is pushing politics more.
I think the problem I have with that is the way he does that, says what he has to say about that in the video, is also really poorly done. Like, I think if anything, this has been a more interesting discussion than anything Drinker brought to the table in his video.
Yeah, and that's of course going to be a limitation. Like, and I completely agree with you. But like, I'll fully admit I watch Drinker occasionally. I will even hop on like Nerdrotic streams occasionally. I disagree with a lot of what they say. I find that they absolutely have a bias for. They more so just are in there for a lot of the times. Again, the woke stuff, right? And they're like,
yeah, I don't think they actually care about the media they consume at all. To be honest, I think a lot of it is just.
I wouldn't go that far, but I can see what you mean, right? Like I can see how you'd arrive at that conclusion. And Drinker's videos, I wouldn't consider them particularly high quality. They are again meant to be like quick, like digestible. Hey, if you agree with me, watch this. But I also feel that equally when I watch your guys' video responses, I was being driven a little bit. I don't want to say mad, but like one thing that frustrated me was the particular kind of angle you were going with, just because I felt it wasn't. Because I would then extend to you guys what you said about Drinker. I'd say the defense you gave here is a lot more. And again, I understand it's a video format, right? And you've had more time to think about it.
Well, I'm more talking about in the video, because like obviously here there's more nuance to have with than just like a statement in the video, more clarifications that can be made and stuff.
Okay.
But for the purpose of the video, I don't think I responded poorly to really anything that he was saying actually in his video. Like if he wanted to come on the stream or something and clarify his point, it's like sure, would do that, but like for the case of the statement that he made in the video, I don't really see, because like obviously when you're watching it, you might be thinking of a different perspective or a different outlook that I or Drinker may have not considered. It goes both ways.
Yeah. So I guess that's fair. I feel that my criticism would be extended for both you guys and I understand why you'd do it if you want to defend the show. Again, I feel that it came from in retrospect, it came from like a good place. If you guys want to, you're very reference oriented for the show itself, right? Like you wanna talk about the contents of the show, but Drinker's video, and you'll catch no argument from me on this, he didn't do the best case, the best job articulating it, but me watching it, he's made some blanket statements, and then he immediately went to the Rotten Tomatoes. It goes to the sentiment of giving it a fair shake. His reference there was he was referring to a fair shake of not what's in the show, but what the showrunner has to say to the people on social media and on Rotten Tomatoes. Slander, you would say slandering, or or I think he wouldn't say slandering, but making haphazard, non-constructive criticisms, ill-conceived criticisms of his show, and his response was, don't like it, don't watch it. My personal standpoint on people like that is they should be better orateurs, they should be able to foster better communication lines with their customers, they shouldn't just say, don't like it, don't watch it. That's kind of where I am on it. I feel that my explanation for why, those people are leaving those negative reviews, Kripke's conduct towards people leaving negative reviews, I mean, it surely can't help, right? Like, he's adding fuel to the fire of anything, which he's welcome to do, and if his show's doing well, good for him. But yeah, I think that Drinker's point overall is fair on that front. On everything else to do with the contents of the show, he's not seen it. I'm not actually familiar with his arguments on why season 2 and 3 he finds bad. What he said in the video, I would almost never use politics to criticize a show, because I find that, again, if something is good, the politics will not matter. I can think of 5 shows off the top of my head whose politics I don't exactly agree with, but I still enjoy them because they're good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I stand on it. And in terms of your guys' video responses, again, I find my understanding is you maybe, I don't want to say you missed the point, because of course it's Drinker's video you could have multiple interpretations of it. I'd say my interpretation differed dramatically, and your guys' videos therefore didn't really work for me on that front. But hey, I mean, they work for your audiences, right? So I'm just one guy. I'd just say, I guess my final my conclusion would be, I'd say in future, I understand I take it you guys aren't fans of Drinker, but I'd say, maybe try to see it from more angles. But of course, that's me giving advice to someone who's not a YouTuber to you guys who are. So
the thing about the more angles thing is, I try to if the angles are given. If the angles aren't given in the video, then I don't want to respond to something that's not even there. Like I think the last stream, Jack came on and he was like, you're saying the problem that people are bringing up is that Kimiko or whatever and Frenchie's relationship was built up, da 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 da. And I'm like, he didn't even say that in the video. Why the fuck would I respond to that? I don't know. That wasn't in the video. I'm not responding to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which Jack and I talked about then. Like, it was the case of the one review you brought up, wherein I think you say specifically the guy brought up Frenchie's story not being satisfactory in season 4. And my understanding is he's bi and he has a romance interest that isn't Kimiko. Jack and I had a word about that. I feel that his contention, and honestly mine a little bit, would be you went to the only change with Frenchie's character is that I think your little words were like, he becomes bisexual, and then substantiated why him being bisexual shouldn't come as a surprise. My immediate contention there would be, well, with what that commenter say, we could say that he believes Frenchie to have a relationship with a person that isn't Kimiko in and of itself.
See, the problem I have with that is that still wouldn't be a change, so that wasn't even what I was thinking about, because if at the end of season 3, they split it off. They're like, this isn't gonna work. So them not being in a relationship, that's not a change. You know what I mean?
No. I'm actually inclined to agree. I don't find Frenchie's relationship with Kimiko to necessarily have been a romantic one. I think, was it 2 or 3 where she says she sees him as a family member, but the interpretation. The interpretation obviously being he's like a brother or whatever to her, or like a non-romantic interest, right? Wherein I agree. However, I think that person's defense could just as easily be, well, I think that them picking, Frenchie having a different romance interest, it creates, it potentially creates like a love triangle or whatever. I don't know if that's what they're actually doing, but like, God forbid.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we can. That's a separate argument.
I'd need to watch season 4 to make that argument. But like, that was, I think, the point which she's going to. Which again, I don't want to say about coaching Jack a little bit, but if I were talking about like debates and that sort of thing, and I think I like the man. I like the man. I think he's well-meaning. I think he's right on some things. It's a case of my advice to him, and overall in general.
I think the next lesson of class should be paying attention to arguments and stop strawmanning and sidestepping.
Listen, I like the man. All right, he was nice to me. No, but seriously, no. But my point was like, it's important to stay on topic, right? When you're having these conversations, it's just like why I try to always circle us back to what Drinker said. Yeah. But I mean, my conclusion. Obviously, I take you guys' point that, you obviously, maybe I'm seeing something in the videos that you guys either disagree is there or, didn't really see that at the time. I guess my question would be, would you agree that, my read is valid, or, like, I'm not looking for validation really, but do you think that that's a read that you could have for that video?
I guess, but I still have problems. I think you can get that, but I still think there's problems with his execution and how he worded it in his video.
Yeah, that's perfectly agreeable for me. I'd say the Drinker video wasn't great. I'd say I had issues with your guys' responses because you were kind of addressing what I personally perceive not to be the central point. But
I guess my only contention with your read of our video, will be like, I think you have to look at it from our perspective of actually tackling the arguments presented rather than the angles that aren't even there or could be there, because it's the focus of a response is the video that you're responding to.
Yeah, and I find this is why it's why I wish that people were, and I get the Drinkers like playing a character, right? So that's why, and those other people, it's like a case of when it comes to reading, fucking hell, I'm going to use the word media literacy. Obviously, I'm not saying you guys are media illiterate or anything. But when it comes to that sort of thing, it's like how the person makes the point they're trying to make. I try to look more for what the title, like Drinker's title, it's losing audience. Like, okay, he's going to be talking about that. And his opinions on the show. There's just no connection in my mind between a show being good and a show retaining or having an audience, because of course there's plenty of things that are good that unfortunately do not, or fortunately because they're just very niche, do not foster massive audience.
Well, if anything, I think SK probably put more effort into his response than I did, because I was mostly on the side of, okay, if you're not going to be specific with anything, then I don't even have anything to respond to. I think SK took the extra mile of saying, oh, this is that. Okay, now I'm going to show what the character arcs are, what the show's doing, what they're writing.
Yeah, no.
Whereas, like, I think you're inclined to do either, because if you're getting nothing to chew on or nothing specific, then you can easily write it off and just be like, okay, well, your video fucking sucks. You're not even saying anything of substance. Or you can do it SK did and actually explain it. Like, I did it in my RSG review. Like, he didn't say anything. I don't know if you've watched that.
I've not yet. No, I'm pretty new to all of you guys.
It's all good. But it was another guy that basically did what Drinker did. Wasn't specific with much and was just making blanketed statements. And I was like, okay, fuck it. I'll do the extra mile, even though he's giving me nothing to chew on.
I have been introduced to that one guy who, like, unironically says what was gonna say that, like, Homelander convincing the girl to commit suicide is like. I was like, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I feel I'm pretty media literate. That feels pretty. I actually, you know what? That person maybe don't watch the show. Not because it's not because you might not understand. Like, I don't feel like getting the right lessons from it. Really, sort of. Yeah. No. No, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I have nothing more really to go on that topic. So unless there's anything else, all
right.
Thanks for the chat again. You have a good evening. All right.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers. Yeah, no worries. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Right, we got
all right.
Staz, Zach. We'll do that.
Staz, yeah, guy. What is your disagreement? And tell me why, if you're here. Hello.
Stazik, you're on the line.
Yes, hello, very nice to meet you.
Hello.
Okay, so very first thing, it's Staszek. I'm from Poland, so the
Staszek,
pronunciation will get harder if I go with my full name, so I'm using Staszek, which is a short version of my name. First of all, thank you very much for bringing me in. Actually, I don't know if you had read my DM, but I come here straight off watching your review of the Critical Drinker review regarding the season 4, and this was the first movie of yours I ever watched. So it's kind of crazy that I'm. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. I'm jumping in. Well, basically, my point, which I would like to discuss, is something I picked up while rewatching the earlier seasons, because I caught up on the season 4, and out of having nothing else basically to do, I decided that I'll rewatch the first 3 seasons, and I noticed one scene which rubbed me in the wrong way. Don't know if you remember, but in the episode 6 of second season, wait a second. In the 6th episode of the second season, there was this scene with guy called Dennis, which Starlight killed because he couldn't hand over. He didn't want to hand over his car, and I remembered that scene from watching it when it aired, but I forgot the details of it, and I was wondering why didn't they actually put more thought substance into it, because for me at least the whole situation was made into a sort of throwaway sort of character development for Starlight, that she now understands that to beat Vought, to beat Homelander, she will have to get dirty too, which is something we see more in the season 4. But what I was missing, I think, is that the whole scene as the thing that happened is basically gone from everyone's mind I think even in the next episode and throughout the whole rest of the show, like the guy is simply forgotten, it's not brought up. And I was thinking this in regards of what the antagonist of the series, which is Vought, Firecracker, whoever there, they could actually bring this up and show people, yeah, Starlight's bad. She killed some innocent guy because he wanted to stand his ground. And I was wondering if you ever discussed this or ever gave any deeper thought regarding this. And before you. Yeah, sure. Go on.
I just wanted to stop right there because I don't think Vought even knows that happens. I don't think there's a way they would know, because if they don't have any camera footage of it or anything like that, like from what we know, Starlight's powers don't leave any oh yeah, this was Starlight that did it. You know what I mean? Because it was just blunt force trauma to the back of his head from slamming on the ground.
I understand that in the context of the show, they don't know. What I was wondering is whether they could, the showrunners could, bring this anywhere, anytime.
You're saying later?
Right now it doesn't really make sense. What I was thinking is actually that I didn't really like the way the scene played out, as in it didn't. Besides their dialogue in the car, when the butcher gave her this look of approval, which she immediately told him that she doesn't want it, I was just thinking, yeah, I think this could have gone a little further. We see the impact of, for example, in the 6th episode of the last season, we see the impact of the situation with Tech Knight, with Huey, and their conversation at the end of the episode, that he's not actually doing very well. And I was thinking that, in comparison, I'm sorry, English is really not my first language, so I'm trying to jungle a couple of thoughts in my head. So I was thinking, it was kind of lacking. I was kind of missing a scene similar to that between Starlight and Huey in 2nd season regarding this particular situation, especially that she did it to save Huey. And that's the thing I was scratching my head about when I was rewatching the series.
Well, more so I'm a little confused on what you're asking, because the end of the season 4 example, I don't really see how it's connecting to the car, her killing the guy.
What I'm drawing parallel to is that there are 2 scenes in which something terrible happens to one of the main characters, and they are both together, and we see a full extent of how it affected Huey, the whole situation, and also bringing the fact that his father died. And I think it's really well played, as in the whole scene, how he confides in Starlight and how he talks to her that he's not actually fine, and taking the same relationship. I know it's not the same relationship because they're 2 seasons apart, but taking the similar relationship they had, to put it very shortly, I was thinking the whole time when I rewatched the season, I was thinking that doesn't. The whole scene seems to not have a real good payoff for me. As in, I thought it would affect Starlight more than it actually did.
Okay, I think I kind of get what you're saying now. I think I get what you're saying. After she kills the guy, you would expect it to affect her more. My read of it is that she's so, at this point in season 2, if I'm remembering correctly, at this point in season 2, she's kind of getting desensitized to the stuff because of all the shit at this point. Because the first season very much touched upon Starlight thinking it's all sunshine and rainbows, and it's oh shit. And then the more she gets into the thick of it, she's yeah, I don't want to do this stuff, but it happens because that guy decided to pull a gun, and Butcher put me in this situation from him being the person that he is.
Real
But
quick, I'm gonna have to head out in a moment. This has been fun, but yeah, that's just heads up.
But yeah, I very much view it as like a desensitization thing, and I think the scene